to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on the 11 o'clock hour BPR, live from the Boston Public Library. A Catholic church in Dedham is defying orders from the Archdiocese to put Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus back in their nativity scene. Right now, their physical icons have been replaced with a sign that reads, "ICE was here." Got us wondering, why aren't more religious groups speaking out against the cruel and amoral immigration offensive taking place right here in our community? Why aren't more of us? Weigh in with your calls and texts at 877-301-8970.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then it's our Tuesday check-in with John King, Chief National Correspondent for CNN. We could add Mexico and Colombia to the list of countries Trump is now threatening to go to war with as tensions with Venezuela continue to fester. We'll ask John what he makes of the warmongering and Trump's granting clemency to some of the most prolific drug traffickers alive during his first year back in office. It's all ahead on BPR, on GBH, and any PM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump says he's going to let the U.S.-based chip maker NVIDIA sell one of its most advanced microchips to China. The chips are used in artificial intelligence. NPR's John Ruwitch reports the policy shift comes amid worries about U.S. leadership in the AI sector.
Trump says on social media the U.S. will allow NVIDIA to sell H200s to approved customers in China, quote, under conditions that allow for continued strong national security. He says he told Chinese leader Xi Jinping about it, and Xi responded positively. Trump also indicates that the U.S. would get a cut of sales. The H200 is what's known as a GPU chip. It hit the market last year, and it's better than its predecessor, the H100 model, which has been a workhorse of AI data centers. NVIDIA's best chips, the Blackwell series, are not part of this deal. The U.S. has imposed a virtual embargo on cutting-edge chips and chip-making equipment going to China out of fear that the U.S. could lose its lead in the AI race. John Ruwitch, NPR News.
An environmental group wants a national moratorium on the construction of some new data centers that power artificial intelligence. More than 230 groups have signed on to a letter to Congress. NPR's Jeff Brady reports.
The group Food and Water Watch drafted the letter, citing the risk of higher utility bills and environmental concerns. Mitch Jones with Food and Water Watch says a pause is needed so regulation can catch up.
And let's figure out if it's possible to do this in a way that is going to be safe for the environment, that is going to preserve water for communities, that is not going to drive up people's already increasing electricity prices.
The industry group Data Center Coalition said in a statement that halting construction would jeopardize digital infrastructure that's essential to contemporary life. The coalition argues a moratorium would risk U.S. economic competitiveness and national security. Jeff Brady, NPR News.
The Department of Housing and Urban Development is revising controversial changes to funding that is intended to reduce homelessness. NPR's Jennifer Ludden reports the HUD move comes in the wake of two lawsuits.
States, cities, and nonprofits warned that HUD's overhaul could push 170,000 people back into homelessness. In a surprise move, the agency told the court it will withdraw its changes for now to address such concerns. But a government lawyer said HUD still intends to shift toward more transitional housing and mandated treatment. The agency has also set new conditions for who can get money based on alignment with Trump administration policies, such as DEI and restricting transgender rights. The two lawsuits allege all those changes are unconstitutional. They say Congress has made clear homelessness funding should be based on need and spent on programs with proven success. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News.
On Wall Street, the Dow is up more than 100 points. You're listening to NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren has weighed in on the recent news of Paramount's hostile takeover of Warner Brothers. Mass Live reports just days after she blasted Netflix's $82 billion takeover of Warner Brothers. Warren says Paramount's $108 billion takeover is even worse than the Netflix deal. She calls the Paramount deal a 5-alarm antitrust fire if it does go through. And the chair of the Orleans Board of Assessors on the Cape is facing charges of trafficking fentanyl. 57-year-old Julia Lee was arrested at her home and pleaded not guilty to charges last week. Aside from fentanyl, Orleans police report that the board chair is accused of intending to sell meth and cocaine as well. The Cape Cod Chronicle reports that Harwich police and the DEA were involved in the investigation. Lee was released on $500 cash bail. And a popular Jamaica Plain restaurant closing after feeding the community for over 25 years. Universal Hub reports that Krista Kraniak Jalfin, who opened the farm-to-table 10 tables on Center Street, says it's time to turn the page, and the restaurant's last service will be December 31st, New Year's Eve. Well, that's the bad news. The good news is that Shefflin says she's not going anywhere. Once 10 tables closes, she'll start work on getting the space ready for a new dining concept. She adds that she can't wait to share more soon. 25 degrees in Boston right now. It's 24 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Lodestar Foundation, inspired by the principle that helping those in need is a path to a happier, healthier, and more meaningful life. Learn more at lodestarfoundation.org. This is NPR.
Houston Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Thank you very much. We're live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here tomorrow with an independent bookstore panel. I can't wait for this. With Just Bookish of Dorchester and Turtle Books in Brookline. Plus, the wonderful songwriter Will Daly performs live. Can't wait for that. Good morning, Jim.
Speaking of independent bookstores, you know, I went for the first time yesterday. Love Struck Books.
The romantic bookstore.
And Harvard Square, we talked to Meredith Goldstein. It's great. It's really.
Did you buy some romance novels?
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
Talk show hosts and
okay.
that kind of thing.
In any case, in Dedham, a nativity scene in protest of federal immigration policies has caused quite a stir. St. Susanna Parish in Dedham's nativity scene this year features a sign reading, quote, "Ice was here," in the spot where Jesus, Mary, and Joseph usually are centered in the manger. The Boston Archdiocese Archbishop Richard Henning says the church did not request nor receive permission for the display, and the Catholic norms prohibit the use of sacred objects for any purpose other than the devotion of God's people, which begs the question, in Henning's eyes, are refugees and asylum seekers not God's people? It's widely accepted that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph themselves were refugees, or at the very least, internally displaced, fleeing persecution. Lines are open at 877-301-8970, not just about the controversy in Dedham, even though we'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but about what our religious communities across the board can do and are doing to protect our neighbors. And what are we doing as individuals as Trump's immigration edicts tear apart families, house migrants in inhumane conditions, and renege on promises made to those who helped us fight our longest war in Afghanistan? The number's 877-301-8970. I thought you were going to have a stroke this morning when we were talking about this. Okay, take it away, Marjorie.
Well, the thing is, the Catholic Church, and I am a Catholic, is still in recovery from its disgraceful worldwide cover-up of a child abuse scandal, which they were dishonest about. People are hungry. I think we saw this in the elections, the midterm elections. Well, I don't know if you call them midterm, the early elections. People are hungry for people standing up and doing the right thing. This is not a normal moment in the United States of America. So to talk about Catholic norms, as the Archdiocese is doing now, is totally missing the moment. Catholic Church has a chance, and by the way, Henning has done some stuff. He was in that ad we'll play in a moment that the bishops did, citing their concern about the Trump administration's immigration tactics, and he has written in the pilot, but the pilot does not have a huge circulation about immigration. This is missing the moment because the Catholic Church has a chance to be standing up for the right thing at a time when people are hungry for that. So good for this.
Not just standing up, leading on the
leading,
thing.
Exactly, leading. He's the Archbishop of Boston. Sean O'Malley went to the board a couple of times. Sean O'Malley didn't shut down this church when they did other things.
Well, I should explain. When O'Malley was there and the same church had Jesus in a cage, that was fine with O'Malley.
Yes.
And also when they had the names of 16 situations where there have been mass murders.
That's right.
Molly was fine with that too.
Anti-guns.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, with due respect to the Archbishop, he has an opportunity to lead. He's not leading. This is a big deal to people. And voters in Massachusetts, in this poll that the Globe did a couple of weeks ago, there are people who like this. And I would say, I don't know why you would like having a 7-year-old, as we just saw in Winooski, Vermont, detained in Texas with his mother. I think the consensus in Massachusetts is what ICE is doing is disgusting, horrified, angry, and appalling. Those are the kinds of things Massachusetts voters said about this. So do the right thing. Show a little guts. Stick your neck out. Don't be talking about Catholic norms when nothing is normal about what's going on with ICE.
Here is the Reverend Stephen Josama of St. Susanna Parish in Dedham. He's reading a statement at a press availability just yesterday.
The Vatican itself displays different themed nativities each year, highlighting social issues to contemporary life. Our hope was to similarly evoke dialogue around initiatives at the heart of contemporary life. That some do not agree with our message does not render our display sacrilegious or is the cause of any scandal to the faithful. Any divisiveness is a reflection of our polarized society, much of which originates with the changing, unjust policies and laws of the current United States administration.
He is my kind of guy.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't know till I read it. I think it was Joan Benacchi's column. Somebody's in the Globe. You introduced me maybe, 25 years ago to an incredible priest.
Bob Bullock.
Bob Bullock.
He looked
who was
like
head
Gary
of,
Cooper. Remember
he was
how
a really
handsome he
good-looking
was?
man.
Yeah.
And he was the head of the Boston Priest Forum. And I had him on my show on NECN. And he was incredible. And I said, do you think that Cardinal Law has to go? And there was an incredibly long pause. And he said, yes. And we went to a commercial break. And Bob Bullock looks at me and smiles. And he says, I'm toast. And immediately after that, he authored a letter. The reason I'm bringing this up is Stephen Josima signed that letter, one of 58 signers. Talk about courage. Of priests saying that a law no longer had the moral integrity to lead the Archdiocese of Boston. And as we know what happened, which was not enough, Law was exiled to the Vatican. 877-301-8970. What do you think about the Archdiocese action here? What do you think about what Stephen Josama did at St. Susanna's Parish? What do you think about religious leaders in general? And how about you? And I know what you're going to do. Every time I mention we're not doing enough, someone says, well, there were 13 people in so-and-so who did a wonderful job when ICE came to grab one of our neighbors. That is to be commended. The question is, when we see these images, as I always mention, of women, mothers, having their heads pushed into pavements by these ICE people, that 7-year-old kid, where was the 7-year-old kid?
Winooski, Vermont.
And was sent to where?
Texas.
Texas. When you see things like that, is our response, or the church's response?
I believe it was Texas. I should double check that. I believe it was
wherever
Texas.
it
Can we
was,
double check
ripped
that,
away
Winooski?
from his family. Is that enough? Joe from Dorchester, you're first on BPR. Welcome to the show, Joe. Hi.
Hello, Marjorie. Hi, Jim. How are you today?
We're good. Thank
Fine,
you.
thank you.
Okay, 2 quick points. Number one, it's a shame, but it's not surprising what the Archbishop has to say. The Catholic Church is a monolithic organization, and they don't let people in the organization say what they want to say. They decide what everybody is supposed to say and what they're supposed to think.
Well, what's odd about it, though, Joe, is that these U.S. bishops just came out in criticizing what Trump is doing with immigration, and the Pope himself has criticized it. So that's what I find a little odd. This doesn't take a particular amount of courage at this particular juncture for the Archbishop to be more forthright. I mean, the Archbishop was in the ad.
What's your second point, Joe?
The second point was it's interesting. The Archbishop referred to the crash as sacred objects, that they shouldn't be used for social purposes, and maybe that's the Church's position. But I'm pretty sure that if you check, the White House has a crash on their front lawn, and if you ask them, they'd probably let you know that it's not a sacred object. There's no conflict between church and state.
Hey, Joe, thank you much
point.
for the call.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
And you can't help when you hear them talk about sacred objects. You might say that people at this particular juncture, particularly children, are more important than objects. That's what I'm saying. They're totally missing the moment, if you ask my opinion, which I guess you do because I'm here talking about it. Listen to this. We have some good text. Growing up in the South, I find organized religion to be the epitome of hypocrisy, especially Christianity. Going to church literally gave me anxiety attacks. Atheists, this person says, are far more empathetic. And then here's someone who says, the way I see it, anyone who's making an effort to protect immigrants and expose the monstrosities of ICE as being a proper, patriotic American, pay it forward for the people and society that welcome you and your forefathers to this country. And here's one more. To those who say it's improper to engage in political statements for the church, I say Jesus dying on the cross was the most emphatic political statement of all. So
why is this also political? I don't even. What's the political?
Well, I think you have to say to yourself, C.J. Doyle, who's from something called the Catholic League. I always question exactly how many people he represents in the Catholic League. He's been around forever, criticizing everything that is reform-wise in the church. He was on the wrong side of the abuse crisis. Yes, he was, and he was very opposed to gay marriage. He was always down at the State House lobbying against gay marriage, and that's what the church, unfortunately, become known for: lobbying against birth control, lobbying against abortion, lobbying against gay marriage, and lobbying to protect their rear ends instead of exposing the pedophile crisis that went on for decades and decades and decades.
Marjorie wrote a great column many years ago when she was at the Herald. I don't think it was at the Globe. It was when you were at the Herald, about getting caught in an elevator with C.J. Doyle. Just Doyle and Marjorie. Two different ends of the Catholic spectrum. How was that?
What happens is he was up there in the gay marriage thing, and I was there in the gay marriage thing, and he's in an elevator, and I had never seen him in person, although he'd written a lot of that letters to the editor complaining about me. So I saw him in the elevator. I rushed in, and he didn't get to close the door fast enough, and the two of us were in the elevator together. I don't think that made him particularly happy. But anyway, it doesn't seem, you have to say to yourself, if you say you're a Catholic, as C.J. Doyle does, and you're okay with families being separated, you're okay with ignoring due process and detaining people who are sometimes U.S. citizens, who are sometimes here legally, who have sometimes done nothing wrong except the civil offense coming across the border. You think that's okay? I think you have to say to yourself, what sort of Bible are you reading? Because that's not what the New Testament is about.
Well, can I say one thing about this? And I said this to you maybe 20 years ago about C.J. Doyle. I don't understand, even though we just had a discussion, the reason we mention him is because he's in one of the Globe stories. Just like we say that there are not two sides to some issues. Why do people talk to C.J. Doyle unless he can demonstrate that he represents anybody but himself?
I think it's a lazy thing to do, to call up the Catholic League. I think the question you should ask C.J. Doyle is, Mr. Doyle, what have you done to help the plight of immigrants who are taken illegally and without due process, some of whom are children? What have you done to prevent that? I would be interested to know what his answer would be.
Let's go back. Can we go back to calls? Because people are waiting. Reverend Bronwyn, you are from Winchester. Welcome to the show. Hey, Reverend, what's up?
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think you said this, I'm a retired pastor in the United Church of Christ, which is a very, very forward-thinking.
We know very well, yeah.
You know. Okay,
yes.
Very good. And I'm co-founder of the Palestine-Israel Network, which is something that we started. We started out of the Massachusetts conference of the UCC, and we've done a bunch of things. And I don't know. I just figured you're talking about this. I needed to.
Well, good. What's your point of view?
Hey,
let's hear it.
My point of view is yes. Put the things out. I'm standing right there with the people who are saying with the Roman Catholics who are saying, hey, this isn't the Jesus we know would probably be hiding out somewhere because an infant born in that situation was in deep trouble. Just I don't know. You can ask me something. I don't have anything particular to say except just to weigh in and say, hey, good for that particular church,
Reverend,
and agree with everything you just said before.
Reverend,
thank you
thanks for
very
your thoughts.
much.
We appreciate it. Thanks for your work.
For the call. Listen to this. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not even a believer, but I would like to donate to St. Susanna Parish. Please share and add the correct address for sending a check. They're in Dedham. I think you could just look it up online, St. Susanna's Parish in Dedham, and they have been outspoken for quite some time.
You know what I don't understand about this? This is not like when everybody was hiding, not everybody, it's not fair, when the leadership of the Archdiocese was hiding out after this gross sexual violence catastrophe exposed by the Phoenix and the Globe, and then obviously all of us talked about it for years. Here's the situation, as you say, where Henning himself, by the way, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. He's been here a year, and I would argue that one of the things that's important is to be a physical presence in this community, not just within the Catholic confines. If this is what his position appears to be, based upon the video, based upon what he wrote in the pilot, what's the agenda? I don't even get what the agenda is.
I think it's a timidity. I think that's what it is, because as he also writes in the pilot, he talks about the church has been criticized by those on the right for helping immigrations, for enabling undocumented immigrants, providing charity to those people. You know, St. Vincent de Paul Society, Catholic Charities.
What's
all
his
those
point,
places.
that it's divisive?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn if it's divisive? It's the right thing to do.
He talks about a polarized nature, a contemporary debate on the matter, but I don't, again, you know, far be it from me, I'm not an archbishop, but
You're not, Marjorie.
I think there's a right and wrong here, and the wrong is the way they're doing this.
How many women archbishops are there, by the way? How many
There are
exactly?
zero.
Zero. Oh, that's right. I
archbishops.
just want to make sure.
There are
I got the
zero
number
women
right.
priests. There are zero women deacons. The church is a little slow to come into the 21st century, you know.
Or the 20th.
We always joke. When I was a little kid, you go to church, there'd be all these people with 8 kids and 10 kids and 12 kids. I was surrounded by people with a dozen people in their family. You know, my father had the mumps. That's the only reason I guess we didn't have 12 kids in my family. But he really did. But now you go, where are all these families with 12? Well, they're all using birth control, and they're all in the church. So the Catholic Church gets ignored, and the majority of Catholics are pro-choice as well, which is something that gets overlooked all the time. Anyway, but that's not the stand of the church. Todd from Attleboro, thank you for calling.
Hi, Todd.
Good morning. Thank you. I am 100% supportive of this church. I've already emailed them and thanked them for their stance.
Oh, that's great.
I always look for charities to give to. So I got an envelope and everything ready to go to give the church a donation. I really appreciate what what the priest, but not only the priest, the parish community is doing.
That's a great point.
I think more religious institutions need to make a stand.
Beautifully put, Todd. Thank you.
I'm really proud to see this.
Send that check. Thank you for your call. We really appreciate it. 877-301-8970.
As a lapsed Catholic, I'm overjoyed by this display. This is what Christianity is about, supporting our neighbors and families around the world, highlighting the injustices. Let's not forget Jesus was a Middle Eastern brown-skinned man.
Aren't you going to tell us how many Catholics are on the Supreme Court? You always
6.
do.
6. Yeah. It's really disheartening. But there's a lot of right-wing Catholics. You know, it was funny when I went to work for the Globe's Crux. It was a Catholic website. I thought, isn't this wonderful? Because I used to get hammered constantly when I was at the Herald. You know, people would say nasty things about me in the comments, and I thought, this is spiritual people. Oh no, there's these things like church militant and all these right-wing Catholics that, you know, are beside themselves. They're the kind of people that get upset where a nun who founded the first privately funded AIDS house in Cambridge for women with private money. She was the chaplain at Framingham State College. She wore the wrong stole at a baptism, a stole only priests were supposed to wear. You know what they did? They threw her out of the house where she lived in. They took away her ministry. That's what, by the way, that's what C.J. Doyle wants to do. He wants to take away this priest's ability to be a priest. They threw this woman out. Her name was Jeanette Normandin, and about 6 months later, she died. So
did you read the comments on your story? You didn't even read the comments on your story columns, did you?
Well, I thought, like I said,
I read them
nice
before I read your
comments
column, by the way.
in the Catholic website, but no. I was hammered. Beverly from Watertown.
Hello,
Thank
Beverly.
you for calling.
Hello.
Hi.
I was supposed to say, listener for a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. What's up?
Hi. I just wanted to report from the other end of the religious spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Unitarian Universalist. I'm also black. I've been UU for decades. I wanted to report that my church and in the UU Association as well, I have heard nothing about any of these issues that surround us. I'm talking about from the pulpit.
I'm very surprised to hear that, Beverly, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I would have thought you would have in UUs, as we call them.
But keep going. Go ahead.
Well, it's despicable. It's beyond despicable because this goes far beyond being a political issue or a religious issue. This is an issue of human life on this planet.
Well, Beverly, you said it perfectly, and I hope you get to hear that from the pulpit sometime soon. Thank you for your call.
I should
Appreciate
say,
it.
in fairness, in my particular parish, they talk about migrants quite a bit. They talk about what you can do for migrants. They have a committee helping the migrant situation. So individual parishes, I have no doubt,
Sure.
are doing things.
Did you listen to any of the show yesterday?
I did, of course.
Did you hear the woman from Project Citizenship and Sarah Betancourt, our colleague, who reports? I mean, the story, close to home ones matter the most. It's a wonderful little forum for the people at the car wash where both of you and I go, where 9 people were snatched
a
couple of weeks
for
ago.
Your car.
But yesterday, we talked about what I think the exclusive reporting by Sarah Betancourt, it's now in the Globe today, about people waiting to be sworn in, the whole process done on naturalization and snatched out of line what country you're from. And if you're from the 19 countries whose people don't look like Donald Trump, you got pulled out of line and have no idea. Again, even though they emphasized yesterday, every part of the process, the vetting, the forms, everything was completed. They're there for this day of celebration where they swear allegiance to the United States, and the United States, through its president, does this to them.
It's horrible, not to mention the constitutional right to due process, which they're ignoring, and claiming, ICE claims they don't separate families. They're just lying. There was another story in the Globe today about that same car wash in Alston, where they talked to some people who eventually had been released, and one of them was extremely upset because she'd been separated for weeks from her young daughter. She was supposed to pick her up at school that day, but she wasn't because she was snatched at the car wash, and many of those people, by the way, that were snatched were here legally, but they were speaking Spanish, they were Hispanic or something, and they were picked up and that sent off to these detention centers where they were treated horribly.
Well, remember what the Supreme Court said about that thing in California? If you're at certain workplaces, you look Latino, you don't speak the language, it is perfectly fine to go for it.
Supreme Court says racial profiling.
Well, that was the case. That was the case.
No problem. Oh, boy. Okay, we're talking about the role of churches and other faith institutions in standing up to ICE. We'll take more of your calls and texts after this quick break, 877-301-8970. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR and GBH and NEPM live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Iraq has been dealing with severe drought for 7 years now. 2025 is on track to be the country's driest year in nearly a century. If you guessed that climate change is to blame, you'd be partially right. Scientists say there is much more to it than that, though. I'm Carolyn Beeler. Hear that story and more next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping you achieve your vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding you from design to completion with showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com. And American Repertory Theater with Wonder, a new musical for the whole family based on the best-selling book and beloved movie. This holiday season, Wonder celebrates the power of kindness. amrep.org.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library next Tuesday. Well, we're here before that. Next Tuesday at the library, Mayor Wu joins us for an hour of Ask the Mayor. And on the 23rd of December, the governor joins us at the library for an hour of Ask the Governor. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the church's role in standing up for families and neighbors as the Roman Catholic parish in Dedham faces pushback from the leader of the archdiocese for its nativity scene, where it's replaced Jesus, Mary, and Joseph with a sign that says ICE was here. What's your perspective on it, and what's your perspective on what the religious community is doing around these issues around the country? 877-301-8970.
Got a couple of texts here. Joanne says, as a practicing Catholic, kudos to St. Susanna's pastor. Speaking out for social justice is part of what we're called to do. Come on, Archdiocese, get out in front and lead. And then Jessica texts and says, proud this happened in Dedham. As a Dedham resident living between my neighbor's Trump flags, I'm often embarrassed to live in a relatively conservative but affordable town. Good one.
Sort of it's one of these if not now, when kind of things.
No
if you
kidding.
can't make a stand on something this basic where there is no other side, it really...
Yeah, to say this violates Catholic norms, there's nothing normal.
What is the norm?
There's not. Well, I don't know, but I would say that you should be less concerned about statues and more concerned about children and people being yanked away from their families and ICE lying to you constantly.
Why don't we pose that question for the listeners? Statues or people? What's your priority?
Oh, here's a good one.
What's that?
From Nan in Milford. She's touching on something that I really like. I support the church for removing the statues from the Nativity. Let's stand up for Christianity. The Trump administration is not everybody wearing their crucifixes as if they were true Christians. I saw a picture in the mall you could buy that had Charlie Kirk and Jesus standing together.
If you're not a regular listener of the show, there's nothing that puts Marjorie over the edge more than people like Carolyn Levitt having crosses as big as their upper bodies. And yesterday, when there was a story on CNN, what's the name of the Trump lawyer who just resigned as the court said she was inappropriately nominated?
Elisa Haba, something
whatever
like that.
Her name is, in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Literally, you could almost not see her body behind the cross.
Well, who's the woman that does the YouTube things?
Elizabeth Vasquez.
Yeah, you're going to check out Elizabeth Vasquez. She's
a comedian.
She's a comedian.
She's a genius.
And when you show, she gets dressed up to do her shtick there. She got a cross.
As Carolyn Levitt.
At her belly button and just goes up to her neck. And sometimes the cross is made out of bombs. Sometimes
whatever
it's made
the
out
issue
of
of the day
soldiers.
is with the
Sometimes
Trump.
it's made out of COVID masks. She is a riot.
Alina Haba is the woman's name.
Haba.
I didn't mean to be disrespectful in that regard, at least in terms of her name. Judy in Reading, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm a minister in the Congregational Church in Winchester, and we had our Women's Advent gathering last night. The theme of it was welcoming the stranger.
Great.
And we talked about the people that we have been finding apartments for and helping them get jobs, and most of them are Afghanis. But we didn't use their names because we were live streamed, and we didn't show their pictures because we were live streamed. And but the congregation, we're not outwardly political, I guess, but we're trying very hard to accompany people to their. I went with somebody where she had her fingerprints taken, and all of those places, so they're not, and the DMV and places like that, so they're not taken.
Can I say,
Judy, that's great.
It is great, but let me just say one. Just because Donald Trump is a sadist and it has contempt for people, as I say, who doesn't look like him, people don't have to say this is not. It is not political. It's about.
It's about right and wrong.
Dealing with your fellow human beings and treating them with respect. It's not, he makes it about politics because he just doesn't, he likes white South Africans. That's what he likes. And people from Norway.
That's right,
Norwegians. I mean he's a racist. I think everybody knows that. And whatever. Judy, it's great what you're doing, and we're glad you told us about it. Thank you so much for the call. We appreciate it. 877-301-8097. Not to mention a misogynist. We're going to play some sound about how he treated a woman reporter yesterday of color in the Oval Office when John joins us in a few minutes.
We should point out, churches have been timid for a long time, and this is not new. churches have been really timid on the great issues of the day. I mean, Martin Luther King, letter from the Birmingham jail, he criticized the so-called good churches. Where are you? Where are you? You're in the wrong place here. You should be speaking out. It's not, it's about people's basic rights. You can say you want the border closed, and Trump has closed the border. People aren't coming over the border anymore. They're coming over, hardly at all, if at all. This is about tearing apart families that have been in the country who have committed no crimes. It's a civil
and
offense.
dishonoring commitments, like to the Afghanis who risked their lives and their families' lives based on a promise that we would allow them here. And now all the asylum hearings are on hold despite their commitment to us.
Can you imagine that? One guy does this horrible shooting, and everybody who's here from Afghanistan, even the people who helped our troops.
Because it was a convenient excuse for somebody who doesn't give a damn about anybody except himself.
We got just not that much more time, Steve, from Melrose, but if you can give us your point in about 30 seconds, I apologize for the short time.
Yes. I'm a retired IRS agent, and the first thing I thought of was any overt political activism by any religious organization, and I'm a Roman Catholic, could jeopardize their tax-exempt status, making charitable contributions taxable, making their church property subject to local property taxes.
Hey, Steve, I mean this respectfully. I'm glad you were not my IRS agent. This is not, I'm sorry, this is not I used to run 501c3s, nonprofits. I understood about risking your tax-exempt status. This is nowhere near crossing the line respectfully at all. Again, it's a statement about your fellow human beings.
But that's one of the storylines. That's one of the storylines. If you speak out, they're going to take away your tax-exempt status. I think that would be a really hard sell, even for Donald Trump, to start stripping the tax-exempt status of a Catholic Church in America or churches in general. But anyway, we've got to move on. Thank you very much for your calls and texts. After a quick break, CNN Chief National Correspondent John King is going to join us on Pete Hegseth and blowing up people in the Caribbean. The latest on Ukraine and the Obamacare vote. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and GBH any PM live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, Patti Smith. Her new memoir, Bread of Angels, uncovers the quiet beginnings of a singular artist, her childhood visions, creative awakenings, and profound losses that interrupted her creative life. She joins us to reflect on her memoir's intimate terrain and the work of turning memory into art. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com. And Brook Meadow at Cobb Corner, an assisted living community offering wellness, care, and support services, including an on-site exercise physiologist to help seniors stay physically active. More at brookmeadowslr.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Here tomorrow, a couple of independent bookstores for an independent bookstore panel. Obviously, great singer-songwriter Will Daly will join us and perform as well. We're joined now on Zoom by John King, Chief National Correspondent for CNN. Hey there, John. How are you?
Happy Tuesday.
And to you, of course.
Hey, great to see you, John. So Pete Hegseth and the a boat blowing up is still, and the second strike on September 2nd is still in the news. What's the latest?
Well, there's a big meeting this afternoon, actually, that might give us some more details about whether the public will get to see the video, or at least more of the details. The so-called Gang of Eight, that's the big congressional leaders on both sides, bipartisan, are going to get a briefing, and Secretary Hegseth will be there, Secretary Rubio will be there. I think some folks from the Joint Chiefs of Staff as well. It's about broader national security issues. It's not just about the strikes, but that is the dominant issue, obviously. And the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, has been demanding that they, at a minimum, release the video to all senators, meaning all 100 senators. So far, members of the National Security Committees have been able to see it, Armed Services and the like, Intelligence, and a few others. I just saw that Markwayne Mullin, a Republican senator from Oklahoma, said he asked to see it and the administration granted him permission. But will the public see it? That's a big question. Will more senators see it? I think we'll know more, around dinner time tonight. It's at 3:30 in the afternoon, I think, is that meeting.
We're getting such different versions of what went on here. Senator Tom Cotton is saying things like they were getting back in the boat and ready to drive away. I don't know how you could drive a boat that was bombed in half. And then other people like Jim Hines, a Democrat, is saying it was one of the worst things he's ever seen. So
that's why you need the video.
Yeah, they're extremely different versions.
Right, and look, there's gambling in the casino and there's politics in Washington. So when you see a Trump ally like Tom Cotton come out and say one thing, and a Democrat who has a partisan history, on some of the other issues say one thing, I'm not criticizing what they're saying. We could all watch the same car accident and see different things. So I think, to Jim's point, the biggest thing here is let people make their own judgments. Then
John.
If you have to redact something for some classified national security reason, if there's some code word or this, that, or the other thing, that might be above my knowledge. But there's a way to make at least most of this public.
This redaction thing, though, this is what Hegseth was saying in an interview, I think, at the Reagan Library the other day. He and Trump have no problem putting out the videos of all of these boats being bombed. They're put that out in seconds. And then we have Trump, who originally said on December 30 he had no trouble releasing the video. And then when he's asked the question in the Oval Office yesterday by ABC News reporter Rachel Scott, he has a different answer and a disgusting example of his behavior. Here's Trump on the 3rd, and here he is yesterday.
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem.
Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says...
You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, a terrible reporter, and it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
Beyond the fact that he's obviously lying, because he said specifically, I have no problem. We'd certainly release whatever we have. John, I know you're probably tired of me broaching the same issue every single week. When I watched that nauseating set of comments from Donald Trump to, shockingly, a woman and a woman of color yesterday, I said to myself the exact same thing I say to you almost every week. Every other reporter stands there like a potted plant. I know some of them are your friends, and I have great respect for them. How can you stand there when a colleague is treated like garbage by the President of the United States right to her face as part of a pattern of racist, misogynistic comments, and just move on to the next question? I really don't get this, and so help me.
I wish I could help you. Look, it's a delicate balance in the sense that we have to cover the President of the United States even when the President of the United States is being a jerk. It's your job to cover the President of the United States even when he's the one who's being obnoxious and worse in that setting. However, it's been a long time since I covered the White House, but I covered the White House for 10 years.
I know you did.
I covered it under Bill Clinton during his impeachment. I covered it under George W. Bush in 9/11, then the Iraq War and all that. Controversial times where sometimes you had heated exchanges with the president. Sometimes the president was mad at the news media for one reason or another. And never, ever did either of those presidents go to this level of personal contempt and sometimes clear sexism and sometimes pretty apparent racism. When he goes after people of color. And so I do think, Jim, we're at a point, I'm not there, and so I can't speak for the others. I do think we're at a point where either somebody needs to speak up and say, sir, we treat you with respect, we expect the same, or to just turn around and walk away and leave Newsmax and OAN and anyone else who wants to stay there and do the propagandizing and just walk out of the room and say, Mr. President, sorry, this is our workplace too, it's your office, but we're not going to come in here if that's the way you're going to treat us.
Let me tell you something, you would never say this because you were far too humble. I didn't know you, but watched you a lot when you were covering the White House. You would not have stood there like a potted plant yesterday or the day before. I'm not asking you to comment.
I hope not.
I know you won't. But
I hope not. I think it's, Jim, I just think it's, look, I say how much I love you guys all the time because you have feisty conversations. You let your viewers call in and air things out. we go back and forth about things. You two disagree sometimes. You might not agree with my take sometimes, but we do it in a respectful way. The president of the United States has just lowered the bar. I say this a lot, as a parent. This is John King,
Exactly.
parent, not John King, reporter. Is that like I have 2 older kids who are doing great. They're thriving, and I have a 14-year-old, and it's like, well, son, don't lie, don't cheat, don't make things up, and don't treat people with disrespect unless you want to be president.
It's true. It is exactly right.
It's getting hard. It's getting hard as a parent to, it's the role model question. And so, yeah. But I hope I would, Jim, I hope I would say, sir, that's out of bounds. Or,
I
sir,
know you would.
Or just turn around and walk away. I think I would about what came out of my mouth.
John, one last thing about what's happening beyond our shores. The reporting is that President Zelensky is saying no land surrender. And I'm not quite clear. Does that mean no land surrender, or does that mean no land surrender beyond that which we've already lost? Because we know Putin in the original draft wanted land that Russia had not even occupied yet. What is Zelensky saying? And it seems whatever he's saying is pretty much the end of Trump's efforts. Is that so?
I think that last part is fair. Look, I think that we don't know that he means absolutely no land, and we don't know that Ukraine can sustain that position, even with the Europeans who are against the Trump plan, because they think the Trump plan gives Putin way, and I could go on, way too much. But I think Zelensky is saying no to the Trump plan. I think you're absolutely right there, that there's torpedoes to the Trump plan as it now stands. Because Putin has shown no interest in actually negotiating, because Trump put forward such a plan that was so good to Putin that gave him territory he hasn't even fully taken yet inside Ukraine. So I think it's a major reset, and what I would say from it is it's a test, number one, of Zelensky, who's dealing with some corruption issues at home politically, in addition to this grueling war. And this is going to be a giant test for Europe at a time when the president of the United States is calling them weak again and insulting them again in this interview he just did with Politico. Can the Europeans hold this together if Trump says, essentially, forgive my language, the hell with you?
Talking to John King from CNN.
So what's up with the Obamacare vote to not keep the premiums from going up, or to let them go up?
I refer you to the 2017 statement. We'll have a plan in 2 weeks, Marjorie. There are still concepts. Now there still are concepts of a plan. Look, I'm making a joke about this. This is not a joke for the people listening in the audience whose premiums just went up, who get their health care through an exchange, listening around the country or around the Commonwealth. Around New England, I've been in my travels. A lot of people who are getting their, insurance through insurance through these exchanges, who are getting doubled or tripled or more in their bills. This is a giant issue for Republicans heading into the midterm election. I made a joke about it because they have not been able to, in part because they have legitimate philosophical, ideological differences in the Republican family about how to do this. And most of them, remember, they're the party of repeal and replace. That's what they ran on in 2016. And here we are in the second Trump term with Biden in the middle, and they still don't have a plan. And so their biggest debate is, can we extend the Obamacare subsidies for a year or two, maybe with some additional restrictions, income levels or something like that, and then find something else. But the Republicans simply don't have a health care plan right now because they can't agree. And this factors hugely into the broader affordability issue that is dragging the president's approval rating way down and putting, certainly if the election were today, if the midterms were today, Republicans would lose the House without a doubt. And possibly the Senate. I wouldn't go that far, but the climate looks horrible for Republicans right now. And coming up with a health care plan as part of a bigger affordability package is their only way out.
This is a small thing before we get to the economy, but
I have an Obamacare question too.
Can
I ask one last thing about this?
Go ahead.
So, as we know, John King, this was the issue over which the Democrats voted to shut down the government, and the 8 Democrats, I think it was 8 in the Senate, who agreed to join the Republicans to reopen, did it in return for a vote. If the vote is unsuccessful in terms of restoring the premiums, what's the date that they extended funding till? Sometime in January? Do Democrats vote against keeping the government open yet again? Or how do they reconcile not doing that if they didn't get what they wanted out of the vote?
I would bet that it'd be even more unlikely that the Democrats would shut down the government. They'd be part of shutting the government down this time once you get into the midterm election year. I think they would rather have the issue than, they have the issue right now. Number one, they have the big affordability issue working on their side, as we've seen in all these elections this year. And the healthcare piece is part of that. I suspect, even though there would be pressure from the base of the party, you're right, Jim, to say, that you got your vote. They did, they denied us again. That's one of the reasons Republicans are trying to come up with some compromise before they get to that point, because even though this will be a fight within the Democratic family, big picture politically, thinking about next November and the ballot box, it's a bigger problem for Republicans, even though the Democrats are feuding over strategy.
Okay, just before we get into the economy thing, I just thought this was incredible that Trump's birthday is June 14th, which is also Flag Day. But the president has decided that his birthday and Flag Day are going to be the fair, free calendar days in national parks. But he got rid of Martin Luther King Day and Juneteenth. I mean, it's hard to keep a straight face sometimes when you hear these things. What's the buzz?
Well, I don't run a political organization, but if I did and I was trying to turn out voters of color or trying to get them to my side on some issue, I suspect this would be on every algorithm I could possibly place it on to people to say, this is your president and this is his party and there's a big election coming up. What do you think we should do?
Yeah, it does seem like a what's the term? The unearned
He's his own
error,
worst enemy sometimes.
Unforced error.
Unforced error.
So, John, who is...
I want to... It's, again, you would wish it was an unforced error or a slip of the tongue, or he just favors himself over everything else, which I think is partly fair. But again, you were just talking about a reporter of color in the Oval Office or at the White House. Now you're talking about an issue here that deals with those same issues. The tone about immigration, Somalis are garbage. The Mexican judge. This we could go back. This is unfortunately, this is a pattern.
Well, also, in light of the fact, while you and Marjorie are talking, I'm trying to envision who is the voter out there who wasn't a supporter of Trump or the Republicans who now says, aha, now that I'm going to get free admission on Trump's birthday, but not on... it's ridiculous. Speaking of that, John, I was also thinking about when I heard Trump yesterday talking about he's doing his economic speech and prices are really going down despite what the reality is. And of course, it's Joe Biden's fault. Marjorie and I are having a mini debate this morning before the show. Do even Trump ardent supporters, do they believe it? Because you talk to real people and you study polls unlike anybody else, when Donald Trump said it's Biden's fault a year into his presidency, do they nod and say that's true, or do they sort of laugh it off because Trump is being Trump and I just love the man, so I don't care what he says? Do they buy this?
There are some Trump voters who say give him more time, but I would say that the overwhelming majority of all voters, and even a majority of the Trump voters I've spoken to, they might say, yes, inflation got really bad under Biden. I understand this is a chronic problem that Donald Trump inherited. But they also, the thing that Donald Trump does sometimes is he insults the intelligence of his own voters and of all voters, in that they remember what he said during the campaign. They said, elect me and I will fix it. He said it would be easy. He said repeatedly it would be easy.
He's saying right now the prices are going down when they're going up.
You cannot look. You can try to convince people the last election was rigged. You can try to convince people this, that, and the other thing, even when their eyes see something differently. You cannot. I went grocery shopping yesterday. You cannot convince people. I recommend everybody. I always say to political reporters in this town, make sure you buy your own groceries. Don't have somebody buy your groceries for you. If you want to understand what's happening in America, buy your own groceries and look at your energy bill. You cannot tell people what their family budget is. They live it every day. They look their kids in the eye. As a kid who grew up in Dorchester, watching the stress on my family going through times like this, living paycheck to paycheck, you cannot lie to people about this. And you cannot spin them. Even lie is a tough word. You can't spin them or fool them because they know what their budget is. They know, in many cases, this is the problem for Trump. Even if things got better tomorrow, we have record credit card debt again in this country. And so families are using their credit card for day-to-day expenses, not for the Disney World trip or the trip down to the beach. They're using their credit card for the things you're not supposed to, right? Your credit card is supposed to be for the big thing. Even if prices don't go down when inflation eases, by the way, they level. They hardly, when do they go down, right? Gas jumps up and down, your eggs came down a little bit, but prices still stay higher than they were a year or two ago. And this stress is real. I'm sorry to ramble on, but when I travel, it just gnaws at working families. And even Trump voters hear him and they look at him and they say, that is just not my life, sir. Sorry, you are way off.
Talking to John King from CNN.
So there seems to be a little revolution among certain GOP women. They don't like the way they're being treated by House Speaker Johnson. Tell us what's going on.
Well, you have a number of them upset. And again, Speaker Johnson, I'm going to give him a little bit of grace here. He has one of the toughest jobs in the world. He has a majority, with you can hold up a hand and you've got a couple fingers left when you think about the majority he has right now. And so you're always having people stirring. And I think I mentioned this a bit last week. So he has Elise Stefanik, and she's running for governor of New York. So again, there's politics, it's gambling in the casino and politics in Washington. So she's trying to make a name for herself, trying to win statewide in a place where, you might be able to be a Trumpy House Republican in some parts of New York. You can't be a Trumpy House Republican to win statewide in New York. You got to try to find some separation. So she's picking fights with a conservative, unpopular speaker. She may have a point, by the way, too. She thinks she has a point about some defense issues. Nancy Mace, also running for office in South Carolina, has been picking some fights. But there are some other Republican women who say that the speaker, they don't believe he treats them equally or gives them respect. But again, I would just say that this is Speaker Johnson's problem is there are a number of factions. The women in this case, there's Tea Party guys, there's conservative guys, there's the Epstein file guys like Massey. He's got these small little factions, and it only takes literally, 2 or 3 people to say, Mr. Speaker, we agree, and they can hold the House hostage, just because the Republican majority is so small.
Speaking of the Epstein files, I mean, how much more stalling is before people get really upset again?
Well, it's about a week away from the date, right?
We're coming, we're coming. And there was a court decision today. I saw that some of the Maxwell records can be released earlier today. So I do think that we are, again, I keep talking about some people ask, why does Trump do certain things? And part of it is it's his reflex to do certain things that the rest of us seem to think are way outside the bounds. But part of it is that he's constantly trying to gin up his base, in part because that's his political mechanism anyway, but also because you're heading into a midterm year where, that's their only chance of not losing the House is overwhelming turnout, which usually doesn't happen, A, when Trump's not on the ballot, and B, in midterm years. But that's what he's trying to do when he talks about all these things. I say that in the context of if they disappoint again on the Epstein files, then, it may not be a huge piece of the Trump base, but there's a significant piece of the Trump base that will be mad again if they do that. And that, the question is, do they take it out on Republicans at the ballot box?
Yeah, is it the 19th that they're supposed to come out?
I think it's the 19th, yeah.
But the supposition is everything is going to be redacted to a point that we won't.
No, the supposition is that she may release almost nothing, saying we have a pending investigation into Bill Clinton and other Democrats, and it would compromise the investigation. That's what some worry about.
There's a lot of different theories, and here comes again another day where they risk. There's enough people on quote unquote their side, meaning Republicans, who are pretty straight shooters on this. They want it all. They want it yesterday. And so we'll see what they do and then what the reaction is.
John, I know you're not the boss, but you've been at CNN a long time, one of the faces of the network. What kind of anxiety is there inside about all that's going on in terms of CNN's future?
It's a tough time in the business everywhere, not just CNN. There's an evolution, a revolution. There's the corporate pressures and profits. Having been there 28 years, we had a party for Wolf Blitzer's 35th anniversary about a month ago. And I joked that Wolf and I have been together. He's been 35 years. I've been 28. So we've been through 5 American presidents and 18 CNN presidents. And it was my math was correct.
That's incredible.
What I try to tell people is do your job. Do your job. I have a personal opinion about which outcome I would like of the proposals on the table right now. I believe that independent journalism is important. I understand there may be corporate forces all the time, but I just tell people keep doing your job. And I also say, back to your point about the Oval Office, if there comes a day where I can't go to work because of where the money's coming from, then I'll find a new job. But I don't see that happening. I work at a great company. We have to deal with this turmoil. We'll see how it comes out. But I hope that we have a CNN that is thriving and independent and trying to find its way through this, like everybody is in the business, through this technological revolution and ideological revolution and fracturing in the media business. It's challenging. Some days it sucks, forgive my language, but I'm fascinated by it and I'm going to keep rowing.
So and you got that new streaming service too, which is just started this fall.
We have some great people trying some new things. Are they all going to work? No, but we have a lot of really talented people trying to see into the future, and the who's going to buy us stuff is out there, and you can't ignore it. But regulatory approval takes forever. Trump might get involved because he likes to dump on CNN, even though he watches more CNN than me. We'll just I always tell people at work, row or go. If you're here and you're cashing the check, just row your boat, do your job. It'll be okay.
Thank you, John. Do you want to make a disclosure? I think you're going to say you should have.
I should have. Yeah, my daughter, who just left the New York Times after many years, went to work for you guys at CNN. She's part of that streaming service thing. So I'm worried about it too. I hope it works.
John, it's great to see you.
Well, it'll definitely work.
Be well. Take care,
Thank
John
you very
King.
much.
Appreciate it.
We've been speaking with Chief CNN National Correspondent John King. We say goodbye to those listening on NEPM. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to tune in at 3 o'clock to the Fabulous 413. The show continues here in Boston. Coming up after the noon news, going to be joined by Carol Rose, the ACLU of Massachusetts. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browder and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Porter Square Books, with locations in Cambridge and Boston, offering a range of books for holiday gifts, book recommendations, holiday bundles, and more holiday gift options at portersquarebooks.com. Amid Trump's immigration crackdown, Frontline tells the story of one Venezuelan family in Florida trying to stay together and keep their legal status. Watch Status, Venezuelan, tonight at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 2 of BPR live from the Boston Public Library. We begin with Carol Rose, Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. The Supreme Court just agreed to hear a case involving a class action suit brought by her organization and a handful of other groups challenging Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship. We'll talk about that and also about a case currently before the Supreme Court in which Trump is likely to get unprecedented presidential power.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then it's New York Times best-selling author Jeff Pearlman, whose comprehensive new biography of Tupac Shakur actually includes a page and a half on the late rapper's former babysitter turned GBH host and daylight-saving vigilante Jim Browder. Plus, the Gold Dust Orphans' Mrs. Grinchley herself, Ryan Landry, joins to talk about their holiday production, Sweeney Claus. All next on BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump heads to Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania today for an event about the U.S. economy. NPR's Tamara Keith reports this focus comes as Trump faces polls showing voters blaming him for high prices.
Trump has spent very little time during his second term traveling around the country to sell voters on his policies. Now, with his approval ratings at a low point and administration officials asking voters for patience, Trump heads to a resort in his swing district in Pennsylvania to talk about the economy. He's called affordability a Democratic con job and a hoax, but yesterday at the White House dialed it back a little.
We brought prices way down from what it was. We inherited high prices.
The most recent numbers show the inflation rate in September was the same as it was during former President Biden's last month in office. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Meanwhile, the Labor Department's out with its newest numbers on job openings, and they were largely unchanged in the month of October, showing employers posted 7.67 million vacancies. More than 20 Democratic-led states say they will not give the Trump administration the personal data of people on SNAP food assistance. The government has threatened to yank funding from states that do not comply. NPR's Jude Jaffe-Block has details.
The states pointed out a federal judge already issued a preliminary injunction in October which blocks USDA from withholding funding from states that don't share the data. USDA has asked for items such as SNAP recipients' names, home addresses, birth dates, social security numbers, income information, and immigration status. The states say they object to the federal government collecting Americans' personal data without a clear need for it and cited legal and data security concerns. They suggested sharing de-identified data instead and asked USDA to answer a number of questions, including whether it can confirm state SNAP data won't be used for immigration enforcement. Jude Jaffe-Block, NPR News.
Voters in Miami are going to the polls today in a runoff election for mayor that's getting a lot of attention nearly a year after President Trump's return to the White House. NPR's Giles Snyder has the latest.
The race for the Miami mayor's office is officially nonpartisan, but President Trump brought national attention to it when he endorsed former city manager Emilio Gonzalez. The campaign has attracted big names from both sides of the aisle. Miami has not elected a Democratic mayor in nearly 3 decades. The party, however, is looking to former County Commissioner Eileen Higgins to help add momentum heading into next year's midterm elections.
That's NPR's Giles Snyder reporting. At last check on Wall Street, the Dow was up 111 points. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Lexington residents voted last night in favor of increasing property taxes to help fund a new Lexington high school. The Lexington Observer reports 62% of voters voted in favor of the increase. It's anticipated that residents will cover about $533 million of the $660 million it'll cost for the project. The remaining money will be covered by state and federal grants. And the visiting nurses of Cape Cod Healthcare remain without a new contract following a 3-day strike in October, but they'll be back on the negotiating table next week. Their union, the Massachusetts Nurses Association, says the visiting nurses are not expecting the same wage as hospital nurses, but they do want the same percentage raise. Union spokesperson Jennifer Johnson says it's a matter of fairness since both groups are registered nurses.
It's really, I think, the fairness around what the nurses are asking for that makes this truly exceptional.
Hospital nurses got a raise in August that averages 19% over 3 years. Cape Cod Healthcare has said its offer for visiting nurses is already significantly higher than competitors. In sports, the Bruins are on the road tonight. They're in St. Louis for a game against the Blues. The forecast, sunny today, very cold, high only in the 20s and staying in the 20s overnight, but clouding up. A little warmer tomorrow. Temperatures will be in the 40s and then mostly sunny, mid-30s on Thursday. 28 degrees outside our studios here in Brighton. I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, thank you very much. We are broadcasting live from the BPL, the Boston Public Library, that is, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We will talk and listen to singer-songwriter Will Dailey tomorrow. He's out with a new album, and he's really talented. Plus, an indie bookstore panel with Just Bookish in Dorchester and Turtle Books in Brookline. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. We're joined now live at the library by a woman who has practically nothing to do anymore. Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. That'd be Carol Rose. Carol, it's great to see you.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I see a lot of your ACLU ads on TV. I say, oh, ACLU,
there we
Carol
are.
Rose, there she is. So the Supreme Court, it seems to be enamored of something called the unitary theory, giving more power to the president, and it's impacting what may be the results of some upcoming cases. Tell people what the unitary theory of presidential power is.
Yeah, so this is a theory, and it really is that. People need to understand whether we're talking about originalism or the unitary theory. These are just constructs. These are theories. This is not, in fact, the law or the only way that we could read the law. And I would submit it's not even the way we should read the law. But basically, it's trying to give more power to the president, to the executive branch.
Virtually unlimited power.
Unlimited power. I was going to say, to the point where it almost becomes like a monarchy, which is, we all know, and for those of us who've been watching things like the Ken Burns documentary series, we know that we had a revolution starting here in Boston to try to push back on anybody who would be king. So our Constitution, we're not a nation of kings. We're a nation of checks and balances. And so this unitary executive principle that some of the justices are now trying to put forward as law is really counter to our history, and it would basically give the president pretty much unfettered power.
So the case where this arose most recently was the oral argument yesterday, the day before.
Yep.
I can't remember yesterday, I guess,
yes.
around his ability to fire people who are on independent or quasi-independent panels. I don't want to give people a headache. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the justification for these tariffs that are bankrupting a lot of American families, despite the fact that Trump says they don't pay it, that the foreign nation pays it, which is absurd on its face, is that this is an emergency. And since it's an emergency, he's granted exceptional powers. And as we've said on the show a million times, the emergency he originally cited was the trade deficit. But we've had a trade deficit for 49 years in a row. So it's hard to classify as an emergency. So my long-winded question is, should we believe that this endless grant of power to anything Trump wants to do about virtually anything is going to extend tariffs when they make their decision to, or no?
You know, I would submit it's not going to, having listened to the oral arguments, and this is obviously reading the tea leaves, but my impression was the justices weren't buying it when it came to tariffs, that they didn't buy that there was actually some sort of a crisis. A crisis sort of is a sudden event. And so I don't think that they're necessarily going to get their way on tariffs. I think they might get their way on the case that was argued yesterday, which is when Congress sets up an agency to do something that requires specialization. And they set it up and they say we want to have it be bipartisan, and so we're going to have staggered terms, and we're going to let different people serve from different parties.
Can't be more than one, X number of people from each party.
And so they set up these systems as a way to try to protect our democracy. And then when a president, in this case President Trump, comes in and says, I want to do away with that. I want to fire those people and put my own political hacks in. Is he allowed to do that? And that was the case that was argued yesterday in front of the Supreme Court. And hopefully they're going to rule no. But based on the oral argument, I'm a little nervous about it.
And there's a Supreme Court case, admittedly quite old, like 90 years old, which says the president doesn't have the power to do that. That's correct. So once again, they'd be overruling
from
precedent.
1938.
Yeah.
And you'll hear people talk about Humphrey's executors, because Humphrey died and it was his estate that brought the case.
Here's the thing I think to me that's so scary about if that happens and they rule with the president, is that instead of having people with expertise and knowledge and right and wrong top of mind, it would just be a bunch of loyalists
hacks.
To this president or any president going forward.
Exactly, and it would basically enable the president to run the country like a crime syndicate. And,
look at what RFK Jr. is doing to HHS.
Well, you have to be fair, though. There are a lot of sex abusers without jobs, and they need positions.
What are we going back to your conversation about the church again?
Okay, well,
they need jobs too.
But if you haven't read it, you have to look up RFK Jr.'s poetry.
This is unbelievable.
To Olivia Knight.
I say this every day.
Because it's
like
outrageous.
Embarrassing already.
It's like everybody pretends it's,
Why don't you read one of the damn
no
poems?
problem.
Why don't you read the poems when he talks about squeezing her cheeks? Why does he squeeze her cheeks,
You're going to make the head of the ACLU of Massachusetts vote for censorship. Stop that.
I'm not going to read
we
the
can't
poems.
Go there.
I just think it's interesting that we've lost our way so much that it doesn't even matter that he did this.
Well, so I think it does. I just want to say, I think it matters. I think people are paying attention. I think the tide is turning. I think when you look at the public opinion polls, things are turning in the other direction. So it's really important. They want us to give up. Like despair is one of the tools in the authoritarian playbook.
That's right.
So partly what we have to do is to choose to say, I'll keep speaking truth to power. We will keep saying what is facts and what is fiction. And if we continue to do that, I think that's our best hope for navigating these incredibly challenging times.
Well, let's talk about a couple of good news things. Ramesa Ozturk, obviously people know, tough student who was grabbed off the street by a masked man. You're smiling broadly. Explain why you're smiling.
Well, we just had a hearing last week, and we just had a ruling yesterday.
Last night?
Last came in late yesterday. So last week we were in federal court basically asking for a preliminary injunction or a pause on the efforts by the administration to take away her student status through the SEVIS, which is like how student records are kept. And you have to have a SEVIS record in order to be able to do things like go to school and get a job and do various things. And we just heard last night that our request was granted, and her record is going to be restored, and she can re-engage in her PhD work around childhood development. And to get back to work and to be able to seize the professional opportunities that should never have been taken away from her. Thank you.
And by the way, you're really part of the Civil Liberties Unit is part of the team as representative.
We are her lawyers. Yeah,
that's great.
Absolutely. Along with a couple of other people. Her immigration lawyer, Masa Kambabi's also been been very involved.
I want to stay on good news for a second. And speaking about immigration and these detentions, these raids, whatever you want to call them, a large number of courts, including ones that are presided over by Trump nominees, have ruled that the due process rights of people who are not citizens are being violated. That's the good news. The bad, we mentioned this to Judge Gertner the other day. It seems to me if you're a lawless administration and courts rule against you regularly but never sanction the people who are responsible for the illegal, unconstitutional, a DOJ lawyer, a person at the Department of Justice, someone at ICE, there's no incentive to stop violating the law. And what I still don't understand, why aren't people being held in contempt? Why aren't Justice Department officials going to jail? Why isn't there a sanction for this endless stream of unconstitutional behavior?
Right. You know, I think this has been such an unusual year, Jim, that I think that a lot of there's always been this presumption of regularity, this presumption that when the government lawyers say something that it's true.
Right.
And no, it's real. And, now we're seeing the change in the district court, in the trial court levels in the federal courts, of all of a sudden, the judges are realizing, oh my goodness, the things that I used to trust that a government lawyer would say is true aren't necessarily going to be. And they're requiring them to come back with more proof and come back time and again. You see this with Judge Boasberg down in D.C. on the case where they, Aliens Act, where they illegally took people overseas and put them into a detention camp where they were tortured. And he's now back looking at that.
A lot of them are still there, right?
Right, exactly.
It's been months.
It's been months, but
of torture.
But and so the wheels of justice, they move slowly anyway, right? Already, I mean, it just takes a long time to file and get evidence and make your arguments and schedule the arguments. Justice moves slowly, but it's also we're seeing a realization that's taken, actually, you could say it's been slow, but it's actually been quite fast in judicial terms, of them now realizing that, oh my gosh, we cannot rely on what the government lawyers say to us anymore. And now that's why you're seeing a lot of changes. But the district court judges are more likely to rule against them, which they have been overwhelmingly. I mean, we filed more than 200 legal actions just in the last year, the ACLU. And 1 in 7 of them are being filed here in Massachusetts. So we're fighting this really hard. But the judges at the trial court level, they've never seen anything like this before. So I think, Jim, in the year ahead, we're likely to see a little bit more of these kinds of sanctions coming in. But this is a sea change in how law has been practiced, certainly in my lifetime.
But you know what you can't help thinking, though? I mean, we just mentioned that these people that were sent off to El Salvador, to the torture prison, it's certainly an emergency in their lives.
Absolutely.
So I guess I don't understand why you can say the tariffs have been around for 50 years, are an emergency, and the Supreme Court says that's okay, no rush, and that this is not an emergency. I mean,
we don't. The ACLU says it is an emergency. The tariffs are not, but this is an emergency. And so now what we have to do is to try to make sure that we can...
People could die.
People are dying. And we're seeing it across our communities. I mean, we can talk about the stuff happening, and we should, in foreign prisons, but it's also happening here in our own communities, of people being hurt, families being ripped apart, children being taken from their parents, or their parents being taken from the children. And the ACLU, we are filing challenges to these. We are trying to reunite families. We did it in Trump 1, and we're doing it in Trump 2, and we will continue to do it until all these families are reunited.
You know, this wasn't on my list of questions for you, but... Ramesa Ozturk has asthma. She had difficulty getting her asthma medication. You could die from not having your asthma medication. You read all these stories. Again, we heard it from the people in the car wash in Alston that were taken about the cruelty at the detention centers. You know, with you're sleeping. It's so cold that you can't sleep. And one person talked about putting their hand on the wall and there was water coming through the wall.
Right.
Why are we allowed to run detention centers that seem to meet no kind of basic standard of cleanliness or
it's
safety?
not allowed, and it's really true. So the ACLU has an office in all 50 states. It's one of the things that makes us really uniquely in a position to challenge this. So when Ramesa Ozturk was down in Louisiana, our colleagues at the Louisiana ACLU issued a report. There are 7,000 people, probably more by now, being held in these for-profit prisons where the conditions are just awful, and we've filed conditions lawsuits in Chicago and in New Orleans and so across the country we're filing in California. So we're challenging the conditions in court, but also it's important that we see now that we have members of Congress into the ICE facility, which isn't even supposed to be a detention facility, up in Burlington, Massachusetts, and going in there and shedding the light on that. And I think it's really great, and we should applaud any elected official who uses the power of their platform to shine a light on the wrongdoing. And also, I just want to say, I enjoyed listening to the hour that you talked about what's going on with the churches.
Right.
But the churches have been remarkable in organizing people to go up and stand out in protest, whether across the highways or at the ICE detention centers. And when people do that, it makes a difference. People are released more quickly when that happens. So I just want people to know that when you stand up for your rights, when you stand up for the rights of others, it actually makes a difference and an impact on the actual lives and the families of the people in there.
I think it's great that individual churches do this. The Catholic Church is one church, all over the world.
Right.
If the bishops did more, they did an ad, and Henning was in the ad, and more power to him for being in the ad. But if they were more forceful, they are nationwide.
Yes.
They're a big deal.
Yes.
A lot of the immigrants are Catholic. I mean, probably most of them are Catholic. They could have a huge impact.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But I also want to lift up what the churches are doing good.
Yeah.
I'll let you take on the Catholic Church.
Okay.
So can we talk about another, I would say, clearly unconstitutional act? One of the first executive orders issued by Trump was to attempt to repeal birthright citizenship. Let me read from the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Why did the Supreme Court agree to take this case the other day? If the lower courts are ruling that he violated the Constitution, which I believe every court that considered this did, why are they not just rejecting the case and letting the lower rulings stand? Because, that makes me really nervous, because everybody with whom I speak, even those who are very cynical about the Supreme Court, say there's no wiggle room here for the court. Even Alito and Thomas are going to have a hard time ruling that Trump had the authority to do this. Why'd they take the case?
I can only hope that they took the case in order to reinforce the righteousness of the law. I mean, the law was put into the Constitution. And the 14th Amendment was passed because people were saying that people who'd been enslaved couldn't become citizens, and enslaved people, the black people, couldn't be citizens in this country. I mean, that's gross and shameful of our history. And so now we need to make sure that law continues to be upheld and read in the proper way. And so I'm only hopeful, Jim, that they didn't take it because they want to reinterpret it. I'm hopeful that they took it because they want to reinforce it.
Can I say something I say every time we discuss birthright citizenship with you or Judge Gertner or whomever? The debate we're having is not whether you think that's a good idea or not.
Right.
You're entitled to disagree with Carol's analysis of why it makes sense. You're not entitled to argue with the incredibly clear and unequivocal language of the Constitution. That's the issue. Does the Constitution demand it? Not whether you think it's a good idea. If you want to amend the Constitution, propose an amendment.
Propose an amendment.
But here is what the Constitution
But the 14th Amendment
says.
is incredibly clear. It's a bedrock principle of our constitutional democracy. And I'm only hopeful that the court is going to take the case to uphold it. And by the way, that's the case that the ACLU filed. Here, the Massachusetts ACLU, along with the ACLU of New Hampshire and other ACLU affiliates, filed that case here in this circuit as a way to make sure that that bedrock principle was upheld. And we did it the first day that Trump took office, because that's the first executive order that he issued. So it's such a fundamental principle, but we were ready for it, and we are there, and we'll be in the Supreme Court to argue that case.
Carol Rose, head of the Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts.
Last week, Carol, I think I was co-hosting with Andrea this day. Yeah, was it Andrea Cabral?
Yeah, it was Andrea.
I think it was Andrea Cabral. Anyway, we talked to a couple of guys from for Media, and they're this new media organization that has done a lot of work about something called FLOC.
Right.
You're involved with this effort. You're concerned about FLOC too. So tell us what FLOC is and what you guys are doing.
So FLOC is a company, along with another company called Vigilant Solutions, and probably other companies. Those are the two here in Massachusetts. And what they do is they sell license plate readers. So they sell tracking devices to cities and towns so they can track people's license plates as you drive by. And, so what's the problem? Well, the big problem is that when our cities or towns, enter into these agreements because they think they need it for, say, traffic control or something like that, if they don't look at the fine print on the contract, what they agree to do is to give all the data about all of our license plates to this national database that Flock has, that then can be used by people who were maybe bad actors in other cities and towns in places like Texas, where there are, bounties and things like that. And so they could track people seeking reproductive health care or gender affirming care. They could track people who are immigrants. They could track journalists meeting with their sources. They could track political dissidents, any number of things. Right, and try to bring them to a Texas kind of justice, which I would say is an injustice. So what we've done at the ACLU is to say, ask people, all of us should contact our local cities and towns. I mean, there are 351 police departments because there are 351 cities and towns, and ask, do you have a Flock agreement? Can we look at it? If you don't have one, please don't get one. But if you do, or you decide you think it's important, at least look at the contract and say, let's not agree to opt in to this nationwide sharing of really crucial information. Because think about it. If you're tracked everywhere you go, think about when you go through your day. Where are you? What do you do? Who do you talk to? That tells you a lot about everything about you. And if we don't want this to be abused, or this kind of location tracking of our cars, then we need to make sure that our local cities and towns don't inadvertently map into this nationwide database that would enable Flock to track us. And the last thing would be to make sure that if our cities and towns do it, and by the way, 40 so far have, we should make sure that they get a warrant.
Did Cambridge have it and dumped it? Am I right about that?
Cambridge backed out, and so did Brookline.
Oh, did.
Because, I don't think people are evil when they enter into this. I think, this looks like a good thing. Maybe we could use taxpayer dollars and do traffic flows.
What do you say?
And so it's important to say no.
I assume, I don't know the Flock people. I've just read about it, and I listened to a piece of Marjorie's segment about it the other day. What do you say? I assume Flock would say when people are out in public, they have no expectation of privacy. They're out in the car. They're not driving their car in their living room, which would be a whole different story. What's the ACLU's response to that? They're out in the world.
But nobody's saying that it's a crime. What we're saying is it's unwise. And we're saying that if you want to not have your people, the good people of Massachusetts being targeted by people in other states like Florida or Texas who don't agree with us on civil rights and civil liberties, then we should take steps to make sure that our people are protected. And there are ways to use some of this technology in ways that don't violate civil rights.
Like what?
Get a warrant. Don't agree with the nationwide data sharing, scheme. There's a lot of ways we can get the benefits of technology, but be mindful about it so we mitigate the harms.
One last thing we wanted to talk to you about, even though I think the law, again, is totally clear. I know everybody has seen or heard about the video of 6 members of Congress, all of whom are veterans, saying your obligation if you're in the military is not to enforce an illegal order. And of course, Trump goes nuts, Hegseth goes nuts. And before I ask you if there's any question but that the law is being appropriately stated by people like Senator Kelly and others, here is CNN unearths this. Here's Pete Hegseth, the current Secretary of War, as he likes to call himself, in March 2016 on Fox News, and another time on Fox Business, addressing candidate Trump's comments that U.S. troops would follow his most extreme battlefield orders, like killing family members of terrorists. Here's Hegseth.
No, I got some response from vets on that saying you're not just going to follow that order if it's unlawful. The military's not going to follow illegal orders. And so the Trump campaign was forced to change their position and say, we're going to try to change the law so that the military can operate within the law. That's a tall order also.
To say these people are total frauds, it's just like...
It really is.
You know how humiliated I would be if someone played a tape of something that was diametrically opposed to what I said has been my lifelong position? Yes. Is there any question that these people are appropriately stating what the requirement, not the option, the requirement of someone in the military is?
Service members are required not to obey a manifestly illegal order. And by the way, it's not just me, the ACLU, that says so. Pam Bondi has said so.
That's right.
John Sauer, the Solicitor General, has said so. Even Justice Samuel Alito last year said so, in the context of the January 6th hearings, right? But all these people have said so, and now that they're in power, they want to say, oh, well, I didn't really mean it. No, it is abundantly clear. So not only does Mark Kelly and these other members of Congress, do they have a free speech right to say these things, but they're also speaking, they're stating the law appropriately. you are not only do you not have to, you are not supposed to follow manifestly illegal orders, and these are manifestly illegal orders.
Okay, before you go, since you mentioned Samuel Alito, one of our two favorite Supreme Court justices, and you have an optimistic answer to everything. My fear, and it's not just mine, is that Donald Trump's going to have dinner with Alito and Thomas and say, hey, boys, you did a great job. It's time to resign so we can nominate 45-year-old Alitos and Thomases so they can serve through 8 presidencies, regardless of who the people elect. Tell me why I shouldn't worry about that.
No, you should worry about it.
And what do we do about it?
We vote in the midterms. Get out the vote.
And you think a message to him in the midterms, which wouldn't take away his power, well, if he lost the Senate, I guess it would take away his power.
It would take away his power, yeah.
That's a pretty good answer.
People power is the answer.
It is.
Yeah.
You believe that, too. That's the beauty of you, Carol Rose.
I
is you not
actually
just
do.
say it, but you actually believe it.
It's my life, Jim.
Shocking.
Okay, I don't need to end on a down note, but
Oh,
what
feel
about
free,
people being
Marjorie.
afraid to come out and vote because they're worried either about ICE or they're
That's
worried...
the, you know who, Andrew Cabral is totally convinced this whole immigration thing is about scaring
just
people.
scare
I think it is.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're already starting to plan for at the ACLU, both here in Massachusetts and across the country in other places, is election protection. And it's going to be really important. And, you know, before I came to the ACLU, I actually ran election protection in places like Sri Lanka and Nepal and places where
did?
I did, where it was sort of, you know, never thought I'd have to bring those skill sets back here, but we're already starting to plan to make sure that people not only have the right to vote, but are able to do so in safety.
It can't be pulled out of line as they're waiting to cast their vote.
Or not given a glass of water, or those kinds of things. So
So
we're going to have
okay.
to. We're going to have to make sure. We're going to have to be mindful. But you know what? The ACLU was made for this.
Now, saying that, now that you have to leave, in light of the fact, based on the audience response, the audience is far fonder of you than they are of us. Why don't you give your website for the fond assemblage
Absolutely.
of
Yeah,
people
get
here?
involved. Join our action team, aclum.org/volunteer.
Terrific. Carol Rose,
Thank
good
you
to see
very
you. Be
much.
well.
Thank you.
Bye.
We have been speaking with Carol Rose, of course, Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts. Thank you very much, Carol. You always lift my spirits here a little bit. Coming up after this quick break, sports writer Jeff Pearlman. He is singing a different tune in his latest book, a biography of Tupac Shakur, titled Only God Can Judge Me, the Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. He's a New York Times bestseller, and he also interviewed Jim Browdy for his book. I'm Marjorie Egan. He is Jim Browdy interviewed in the new book. You're listening to
Marjorie,
BPR
let's
at
move on.
89.7 GBH live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, Patti Smith. Her new memoir, Bread of Angels, uncovers the quiet beginnings of a singular artist, her childhood visions, creative awakenings, and profound losses that interrupted her creative life. She joins us to reflect on her memoir's intimate terrain and the work of turning memory into art. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the International Institute of New England, working to protect the safety, rights, and future of immigrant families in our communities. Learn more at iine.org. And Revels. Audiences can experience the joy of the holiday season with Midwinter Revels, a Scandinavian story for Christmas, December 12th through 28th at Sanders Theater, Harvard University. Tickets at revels.org/midwinter.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow with an independent bookstore panel with Just Bookish from Dorchester, Turtle Books in Brookline. Singer-songwriter Will Daly will talk and perform on the 16th of December. We're back at the library. Mayor Wu will be here for an hour to answer your questions and ours. And 2 days before Christmas at the library, Governor Healy will join us here for an hour of Ask the Governor. Jeff Pearlman has written numerous best-selling books about sports icons. Gunslinger about Brett Favre, Showtime, the LA Lakers dynasty of the 90s. That one was adapted to a huge HBO hit. The Bad Guys Won, all about the 1986 New York Mets, to name a few. But in his latest book, Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur, he's taking on a totally different subject. Here's a little bit of Tupac. We'll let you know in a minute why we chose that particular song, Brenda's Got a Baby, to play. Listeners of the show will recall I have my own personal connection with Tupac. During my days as a legal services lawyer in the South Bronx when I was a kid, his mother, Afeni Shakur, was part of our team and occasionally would go out to do community organizing and, she didn't ask, she ordered one of the young lawyers to take care of her kid. Jeff Pearlman, the book is spectacular. It's really good to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm just going to say it. I think it's obvious. When I sought to interview you, Jim, it was only because I thought one day it could land me right here. So I wasn't actually interested in your insights at all. I just thought one day I could be sitting in my bedroom in shorts and a ratty shirt on NPR Boston.
You know, you're the first honest guest we've had on the show in weeks, Jeff.
Well,
thank you for joining us.
That's because you use your interview politicians.
Yeah,
exactly.
And before we get into the book, I want to tell you, he's been in a cold sweat waiting till this book came out to make sure. First thing he did was look at the, the names at the back of the book.
You don't know that I did that.
I know you very well, Jim. I know you were very concerned about this. We've heard the story about Tupac about 9,000 times, but that's okay. So tell me, congratulations. I mean, on this, and what a career you're having. It's unbelievable. But tell us why. You talk about this. Why you decide after all these books were written about Tupac, why you decided to write one anyway?
So I just think oftentimes with icons, you have this mythology that's built, and people are always like, this and that and this and that. But it's a lot of gossip. It's a lot of innuendo. It's a lot of people who didn't really know the subject well. And I just thought Tupac qualified. Like, there are a lot of people spewing a lot of nonsense about Tupac. When I grew up a very big hip hop fan, I've always been fascinated by him, by his rise, by his demise. And I kept waiting for someone to write this book. And nobody ever wrote this book, the book I wanted to write. And finally, after about 10 years of waiting, I thought I'm going to go for it myself. And here I sit.
So you interviewed somewhere in the neighborhood of 650 people, Jeff Pearlman. I don't even know 650 people. Did you not encounter, I mean this sincerely, was there not someone who said to you, I'm not sure a white Jewish kid sports writer from a rural community in New York is the right guy to be doing this?
First of all, I do resemble that remark.
We know that. Thank you.
You know what's interesting is I thought it would be a bigger problem. It's been more of a problem in promoting the book than it was in actually researching the book. I think what happened is you started interviewing people, 5 people, 10 people, 313 people, 500 people, and you build this sort of resume of Tupac information. And you start saying to people, I interviewed this person. They say, whoa, you interviewed this person, this person. You say, and then I interviewed this person. And the other thing is, I'm genuinely interested in their lives. Sitting with the crack dealer in Marin City, I'm fascinated by what he has to say. Talking to you about a young Afeni Shakur, I'm fascinated by what you have to say. And I think if you show people that you're genuinely interested, and also if you acknowledge, like often I would say, look, I'm a relapsed sports writer. I am not of hip hop. I'm a white guy from upstate New York, but you'll never find anyone more interested in you than me. I think people respond to that.
You know,
very good.
Speaking of interested, Jeff Pearlman, before we talk about the son, I am so glad you spent so much time on the mother, who I think is an historic figure in a lot of ways. Give us a minute or two, particularly about young Afeni Shakur and what your takeaway from her was.
Man, I am all about a devotion to Afeni Shakur's story. I didn't know that much about her. Even when I called you early on, I didn't know that much about her. But Afeni Shakur, she was in jail in a detention center in New York City. At the same time, she was a Black Panther on trial in this sort of famous / infamous Panther 21 trial. A bunch of Black Panthers in New York were on trial for, plotting to blow up different landmarks in New York, New Jersey. She has no college, she doesn't have a high school diploma. She turns down a court-appointed counsel to represent herself. She's facing a lifetime plus in prison. And somehow she wins while she's being shuttled back and forth to jail every day, being fed a piece of white bread and an egg, pregnant after having 7 miscarriages already. And she won. She was just, to be blunt, the ultimate badass. She was submissive to no one. She had an obsession with truth and honesty and justice. And you worked with her. And she was a tragic figure in many ways, her addictions later on, relapse after relapse. but like ultimately a very triumphant and powerful and profound figure. And there should be, if not a TV series, a movie about the life of Afeni Shakur.
I would agree. And by the way, even if people don't know, and you'll learn, read the book, you will learn so much more that I didn't know about Afeni. And it's important, in my opinion, and I think Jeff's, that you do. Even if you didn't know that, you know the song. Here's Dear Mama, the 1995 song by Tupac from his album Me Against the World, obviously about Afeni. Here it is. Tupac Shakur.
You know, you also speak about Tupac when he was a teenager, speaking of teenagers, is kind of, he had braces, his teeth were a little bit brown, he kind of was awkward, walked like a duck. I think you talked, but so he had magnetic, but kind of, and the pictures of him in the book, it's not what you expect to be a big, huge rap star. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, he was a scrawny theater arts kid. That's the interesting thing about Tupac. I mean, Baltimore, to me, is his most interesting period. He grows up in New York. He moves to Baltimore when he's in middle school. And he's living in a row house in East Baltimore. No air conditioning, no heat, rats running along the floorboard, poverty, 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 a drug-addicted mother. And every day he's going to the school, the Baltimore School of Performing Arts, where he went for 2 years. And it's like, if you've seen Fame, it's basically Fame in Baltimore. And you walk in, like I went to the school is amazing still. You walk in, you could hear a choir, you could hear string quartet, a million different things, a monologue, acting, whatever. And he goes there and he's just this beautiful kid with painted fingernails, with spray painted jeans, with a high top fade with a peroxide strip going down the side. And he's theatrical. And in a way, he's effeminate and he's bouncy and he loves it there. He loves being a performing arts kid. And then every day he's going back home to gunfire, to poverty, to rats along the floorboards, and then every day going back to school. His whole childhood was this mishmash of raw trauma and raw beauty.
You know, you mentioned that that was a critical formative time for him in Baltimore, and I'm sure it was from having read your book. But there's also that little scene, and I'm sure you're the same way, little pieces, little anecdotal pieces of information that you report on your book, Jeff Pearlman. The book is Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. You talk about this scene in a classroom, I think this is in Marin, where they're doing Othello. And he plays Othello. Can you talk about this just for a minute and what the teacher said about Tupac's performance to the class?
She said, he does a monologue in front of the class. And you know, it's like one of those classes, I talked to a bunch of people who were there, where it's like, Othello, who cares? I just want to go to lunch. And he does his monologue, and the teacher stops the class and says, students, you will never hear it done better than right there by Tupac. And like, he was this is at Tam High School in Marin. And he moved from Baltimore to Northern California. And he's living in a part of Northern California called the Jungle. And it's the projects, Marin City. And every day he's taking a bus and going to beautiful Marin, white, leafy, you know, you want soy milk or oat milk with your coffee kind of place. And he's in the ETC acting program there. And again, like it's funny because he does these performances and his guys from Marin City show up for his performances. And they're like the only black people at the performance. And they're like taunting Tupac from the front row. And he's performing. He did one play called March 5th about Martin Luther King. And he's responding to them in character while he's doing the show. And at the end, people are like, that was the most brilliant, beautiful, weird, warped, unprofessional, gifted thing I've ever seen. That was him. He was, in a lot of ways, he was more of an actor than he was a rapper, and he's one of the great, if not the greatest rapper of all time.
So, you know, how'd this happen? Mom, obviously, you could say maybe a genius, be able to outwit the courtroom when she hadn't even had any training. The son, at a very young age, showing this profound talent. It's just big brains, where they were both just geniuses, or what's the deal?
I think for Tupac, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. Every now and then in life, you meet someone and they just know. Like you meet an athlete and they just know, I'm going to play in the NFL one day, right? Or you meet someone and they know, I'm just going to do this. I know I'm going to do this. And that honestly was Tupac from a very young age. Like he just knew from the time he was rapping on the stoop in the Bronx to the time he's in Baltimore rapping as he's walking through the hallways. He just knew. And maybe it comes from this hard level poverty he was living in. Maybe it comes from a mom who is, despite her addictions, was all about self-fulfillment and Black empowerment and self-belief. Somehow he knew. And when he auditioned for the Baltimore School of the Arts, I mean, he went in there, he auditioned. It's a very intimidating room. You're sitting in front of 4 teachers in a grand ballroom. And he does his audition, which is a monologue from A Raisin in the Sun. And he's done. And all the people backstage told me, the 4 teachers stood up and started applauding.
Wow.
And it just doesn't happen that way. He just always knew he was gifted and that he was meant for something. It's kind of remarkable.
You know, it's also remarkable. Every page I read in this book, no matter what I read about him, what kept coming back to me, and I bet it did to you, is he was just a kid. I mean, dying at 25 years old, but that kept getting driven. You know, when Doris Kearns Goodwin wrote Team of Rivals, one of us asked her if she felt, she spent 10 years on the book, and one of us asked her, do you feel like you knew Abraham Lincoln? Not know about Abraham Lincoln, because obviously she knows more about Lincoln than his wife did. Do you feel like you knew Tupac after spending 2.5 years and 650 interviews? Do you know what I mean, Jeff?
Yeah, first of all, you're throwing some serious shade at Abraham.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
She's trying her best, you know?
I'm really sorry.
Do I feel like I know him? The flaw of biography that I've learned through the years is you can't be in someone's head, right? So I learned long ago from writing books. This is my 11th book, right? Early on, if you look at my books, you probably see every now and then Barry Bonds walked to the plate and he thought to himself blank, right? Or Magic Johnson stood at the free throw line and he thought to him, you don't know. Some guy can walk to the plate and be thinking about a Simpsons episode. Magic Johnson could be at the free throw line thinking about the eggs he overcooked. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. So I don't know what was in his mind, but I feel like I do understand his path very, very well. And I feel like I understand the BS that surrounded him and the nonsense that surrounded him. And now when I hear people telling stories about him, there's a million people on YouTube telling their close and personal stories about Tupac. I do feel like I have a PhD in, no, that's not true, and you're full of crap.
We're talking to Jeff Pearlman. The book is Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. So we started this playing a little excerpt from the song Brenda's Got a Baby. The credit to you as a relentless reporter.
Oh my God, is this great.
Tell us the story behind Brenda's Got a Baby and who that baby turned out to be.
I feel like there's a movie to me about the story behind the story.
I think so. Yeah, it's a great introduction to the book. It's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy. So Tupac is filming the movie Juice in 1991. It's his first starring role in a film, and really his first film. He had a cameo and something. And every day when he was growing up, his mom, Athene, would either read the newspaper to him or have her kids read the newspaper. So every day they're filming Juice in New York City. He's based in Oakland, but he's coming to New York City. He gets the New York Daily News brought to his trailer. And one day he's reading an article called Cries in the Night. And it's about a 12-year-old girl who was raped by a cousin, hid the pregnancy from her family, delivered the baby on the bathroom floor, wrapped the baby in an odd job plastic bag, threw the baby down the trash heap. It's the day the trash is compacted in the building. The superintendent of the building hears what he thinks is either a cat or a baby. He walks over to the thing before the compactor goes off, sees fingers and eyes, and it's a baby, and he rescues a baby. Tupac reads an article about this, goes into his trailer, writes, Brenda's got a baby in about a half hour. Brenda's got a baby, but Brenda's barely got a brain. A damn shame. The girl can hardly spell her name. And he's inspired by this whole thing. So I actually thought it'd be really interesting if we could find the baby who inspired the song. And I went to high school, Mahopac High School, class of 1990, shout out, with a woman named Michelle Stooley, who it just turns out is this is all-star genealogist. And I said, do you think we could find the baby? We being her, really. And she's like, give me a week. And one day she calls me. A week. She's a wizard. She's a wizard. She amazing. And she says one day she gives me a number, a guy named Davon Hodge in Las Vegas. She goes, I think this is a baby. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I think this is it. Now, nobody answers their phones in 2025, so you can't just call someone if they don't know your number. So I basically send the crudest text of all time. Hey, my name is Jeff Pearlman. I'm working on a book about Tupac. By any chance, is this you? And I attach the article. I don't know, what are you going to do? Merry Christmas. So he writes back basically, holy crap. He lives in Las Vegas. I go out to Las Vegas. His name is Davon Hodge. He's 30 whatever years old. We sit down at a Starbucks. He's awesome. he is a baby. The way he figured this out is his adoptive parents had died a couple years earlier. He does an Ancestry.com search. All these tentacles come back to the Noble Drew Ali Public Housing in Brooklyn, New York. Relative. He reaches out to them. Holy crap, do you know who you are? Holy crap, we've been looking for you. Holy crap. He goes to visit. They're like, we've been looking for you for so long. Do you know your story? He's like, not really. They tell him how his mom, the whole thing, the mom has gone missing for years. They show him the trash chute where he literally showed me a picture of him in front of the trash chute where his mom threw him down in the plastic bag. And then they say, do you like Tupac? He's like, of course I like Tupac. He's like, I like Biggie more, but I like Tupac. And they're like, the song Brenda's Got a Baby, we think it's about you. It's like, what? So I have this whole conversation with him. This had just happened recently. He hasn't seen his mom. I say to Michelle Sully, the genealogist of the gods, do you think we could find the mom? She's like, I don't know. That's kind of tough. Give me
a week. Exactly. You got a week.
Yeah. She finds this number. She reaches out. And she's basically like, hi, is this Jeanette? And she's like, yeah, who is this? It's Michelle. Michelle who? And she basically says, I'm working with this author, Jeff Pearlman, about this book, Tupac. By any chance, did you have a baby when you were 12 years old? And the woman starts screaming, oh my God, do you know where my baby is? Do you know where my baby is? She's like, we do. She's like, oh my God, I've been looking for him for decades. Oh my God, I'm away from home. I need to get home. I live in Newark, New Jersey, but I'm away from home. Michelle says, well, where are you? She goes, I'm at a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert. She goes, where's the concert? It's in Las Vegas. She goes, your son lives in Las Vegas. And they reunite that night.
Oh my God.
In Las Vegas.
What a great story, and I mean that's really impressive that you went to that kind of trouble to find this person.
But that does beg the question: why are we not talking to her rather than him? That's really the.
So tell us. You talk a lot about all the conspiracy theories surrounding why Tupac was killed. Tell us what you think happened.
I think I know what happened, which is basically it's a Mike Tyson Bruce Seldon fight. 1996, and all these guys from Death Row go, including Death Row Records, including Tupac. This is a Suge Knight label, and the fight is terrible. But Tupac loves it. He wrote the ring entrance for Mike Tyson for that night. He entered the ring to a Tupac song. After the fight, they're in the MGM Grand. A bunch of the Death Row guys, and the Death Row guys are all affiliated with the Bloods. It's a mob. Pyru is the gang. They're all Bloods affiliated, and they're basically in the MGM Grand. And Tupac is next to a guy who had recently got a blood affiliated guy who had recently gotten in a fight at a mall with a member of the Crips named Orlando Anderson. The guy Tupac is with is named Trayvon Lane. And Trayvon Lane says to Tupac, that's the MFer who stole my medallion at the Foot Locker. And Tupac's like, which guy? And he goes, that guy right there. And he points to Orlando Anderson. Orlando Anderson is a Southside Compton Crip. He's at the fight. Tupac walks up to him, goes, you from the South? The guy turns to him and Tupac punches him. All the Death Row guys pounce. Now, Orlando Anderson, Crip, all these guys, Bloods, it is a mortifying thing to get beat up in such a public manner. It is particularly mortifying to get beat up by a rapper. And I'm not making that up. Like I interviewed friends of Orlando Anderson, different guys from the different gangs. There's no dignity in getting your ass kicked by a hip hop artist. I'm actually being sincere about that. Later on that night, Orlando Anderson, his uncle Keefe D are driving around looking for Tupac. They go to Suge Knight's club. He's not there. It just so happened there's Suge Knight, there's Tupac driving down the strip. Tupac kind of leaning out of the window, hollering at women who are walking by, hey, girl. And he's like, there's Tupac. They drive up next to Suge Knight's car, fire into the car. Tupac is hit multiple times, and he winds up dying.
And his trial is there's a trial, February, March, something like that?
Yeah, Orlando Anderson is deceased, but Keefe D, the uncle's trial.
Right.
Keefe D is the dumbest human being in America. Forget the whole murder part. He literally wrote a book breaking much of it down. I'm just going to give advice to people. If you ever commit a crime, maybe don't write about it in a book. Not the best idea.
Hey, Jeff Pearlman, your book is really spectacular.
Yeah,
we both really loved it. Good luck, and it's great to meet you in person.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you and a pleasure to read this. And what an incredible, you're an incredible writer, but you're an incredible reporter, and good for you. Thank you.
I also just want you guys to know I did not use the Jim nudes that I had. The photos, I did not use them. Jim, You better send me that check, all right? I got him.
It's in the mail. I told you it was, and it is. Trust me,
All
it's
right.
fine.
Okay,
All right.
Jeff Pearlman,
All right.
thank you very much for that little
I got
nugget.
copies for you too, Marjorie. Go ahead.
Okay, we've been speaking with best-selling New York Times bestseller Jeff
It's a great
Pearlman.
book.
His latest book, and it is a great book, Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. Coming up after this quick break, playwright Ryan Landry is back smack dab in the middle of his Sweeney Claus run at the Iron Wolf Theater. We're going to talk with him. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
In Uganda, a program seeks to address poverty by giving cash and financial coaching to people who need it. Now, funding to global development programs like this are being cut.
If we can find a better way of squeezing more juice out of whatever we're doing, then you can expand and help more people. And instead of going to 1,000 communities, we can go to 2,000 communities.
More on those challenges on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Bach Center, presenting the 25th annual Anthony Williams Urban Nutcracker, a holiday classic with a blend of classical and modern dance, at the Bach Center Schubert Theater December 13th through the 21st. Tickets at bachcenter.org. And Bonsai Bar, hosting pop-up beginner bonsai workshops at breweries across New England. Hands-on classes provide guidance in the basics of bonsai design and care in a group setting. More at bonsaibar.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Joining us on Zoom is painter, playwright, chief executive Orphan at the Gold Dust Orphans, Ryan Landry. The new holiday show, Sweeney Claus, the demon father of Sleet Street, is in production. Well, it's actually, they're performing it now. Marjorie and I and the whole BPR team will be there next Thursday night. We can't wait. And of course, Marjorie and I have a starring cameo, if that's not oxymoronic, in this spectacular play. For more information and tickets, and there aren't that many left, go to thegolddustorphans.com. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, James. Hi, Marjorie.
Great to see you. Great to see you. So tell me.
It's so funny. It's so funny that Jim just said oxymoronic, because I've always thought of you, Marjorie, as oxy, and Jim, you know how I feel about you.
Thank you. I really am honored. Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Wasn't that good, Marjorie? Wasn't that good?
Well, tell people who may not know about your annual show, and this particular show, Sweeney Claus, the demon father of Sleet Street.
Oh, well, I mean, it's our biggest hit ever. Well, it's probably because, we have over 175 costume changes. And I mean, we really pull out all the stops here. There's 18 songs in it, and the audiences are loving it. And every night I make them stand right up, put away no phones allowed, and they have to sing the carol at the end of the night, all together.
Oh, we love carols at the end of the night.
How does the audience react when, as happens at every Christmas show of yours, Marjorie either executes or has me executed? What's the audience reaction to that?
Oh, the cheers are deafening.
That's heartwarming. That's beautiful.
It's so beautiful when you turn into an angel and go up to heaven, because you're that much farther away, James.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
And the audience just loves it when Marjorie slits your throat. It's exhilarating.
No, it is
yeah,
exhilarating.
I'm very violent this year. There's no question about it. I'm very violent.
The question, though, that Marjorie and I were debating this morning that we've never asked you, this is at Lithuanian Hall, which is wonderfully located in South Boston. How do the Lithuanians feel about this show, do you think?
Oh, they're nutty for it. They come in droves. Oh, yeah.
They are. It's a huge part of your
they all
audience.
speak English. It's not like they're sitting there chatting in Lithuanian. I mean, they get the jokes. They love it. They're a good group of people. I mean, there's hundreds of them.
You look like a banker today. Do you know that, Ryan? You really
want to know why, James?
Why is
because
that?
I'm in my pajamas and bathrobe, because it is my day off, and I'm relaxing at home.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. So you should tell people too, if you want to go, they have a nice open bar in the back. You can go before the show.
It's not an open bar. You have to go spend money.
Not open
yes.
bar. You have to pay for it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You have to pay for it. But it's a nice bar. They can go up and get a little cocktail before the show begins. Bring it back to your seat. Then they have an intermission. You can go back again, and then at the end,
it's like a real play kind of thing.
Ryan stands stands at the door and greets people as they leave the place. You have an opportunity to see Ryan up close and personal.
You get an opportunity to smell Ryan up close and personal.
That's true. That's true. Okay. So the golddustorphans.com is where you get tickets, right? If information tickets. The show's
yes,
running.
so you can get them. Yep.
And no kids allowed. Correct. We should be clear. No kids.
This is a grown-up show. And it runs until when? When do you run until when?
December 21st.
December 21st. You got to hurry up.
Yeah, that's our last day.
That's our last day. So
By the way,
hurry up.
I'm not offended by the fact I went to the website this morning and you're promoting the hell out of the fact that Parker Posey is going to be one of the performers on a particular night and you never mention us. What is that about?
I know, because I like the element of surprise, James.
Thank you. Nice try, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan,
we are
excited.
so excited
We're very
about
excited.
coming.
Yep.
And can we make a pitch for people who have not been to the Gold Dust Orphans?
It's so much fun.
It is as much fun as you can have.
And so talented. You feel like you're at a Broadway show.
It's fabulous.
Up close and personal.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's
Ryan,
true.
we'll see you next week. We're really looking forward to it.
I'll see you next week, kids.
Ryan Landry, we love him.
We've been speaking
Happy holiday.
And to you.
We've been speaking with Gold Dust Orphans creator Ryan Landry. Their new holiday show, Sweeney Claus, the Demon Father of Fleet Street, is on production now at the Iron Wolf Theater in South Boston. For info and tickets, go to thegolddustorphans.com. That's gold.org. Whoops. golddustorphans.org. Sorry about that. .org at the end. Okay, coming up after the 1 o'clock news, we're going to talk about gambling in the state of Massachusetts. 2 bills about making gambling, even on phones, easier to do. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. This is BPR at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Support independent local journalism. Gain a possible tax advantage and clear out your garage all in one when you donate your old vehicle to GBH this holiday season. Or at gbh.org/vehicle donation.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the trustees, presenting Winterlights, a celebration of seasonal sparkle with light displays in Stockbridge and Canton, Massachusetts, running Wednesday through Sunday nights through early January. Advance tickets required. More at thetrustees.org/winterlights. And Rogers Fish Company, offering an array of holiday seafood gifts and gift cards. Their signature double clam chowder is also available for purchase at Market Basket. More at rogersfishcompany.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library. First up, it's 2 prominent voices in the debate around gambling in Massachusetts. State Rep David K. Muradian, Jr. has been an advocate for expanded gambling, specifically online casino gambling, while David Nangle of Stop Internet Gaming has been a staunch critic wanting to rein in the state's appetite for gambling revenue.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then closing out our Tuesday in this era of economic inflation and social isolation, so-called quote-unquote time banks attempt to solve 2 problems at once. They're bringing a community of strangers together to help out with things like rides to the airport or help finding a dustbuster charger in exchange for your help when someone needs it. We'll open phone and text lines for your thoughts on the idea and what skills you think you could offer your neighbors. That's all next. BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is attacking Europe again, calling America's allies weak and decaying. NPR's Mara Lyson has details.
In a wide-ranging interview with Politico, Trump denigrated the Western European democracies that until now have been the United States' staunchest allies. Trump said Europe doesn't know what to do. He blamed European leaders for failing to control immigration or stopping the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
They have to play ball if they don't read agreements, potential agreements. It's not easy with Russia because Russia has the upper hand.
Trump is pushing Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky to accept his latest peace plan, which includes several core Russian demands. It would force Ukraine to give up territory to Russia, put limits on Ukraine's military, and restrict the country's sovereignty. Mara Eliason, NPR News.
A federal judge has agreed to release grand jury and other investigative materials from the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell, a longtime confidant of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. NPR's Ryan Lucas has the latest.
The Justice Department in November asked a federal judge in New York to release the investigative materials from Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking case after Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Now, U.S. District Court Judge Paul Engelmayer has granted that request and authorized the department to publicly release the grand jury materials as well as the investigative records while redacting personally identifiable or other victim-related information. A similar request to make public investigative records from Epstein's prosecution in New York is still pending before a different federal judge. Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking and other offenses. Epstein died in a federal lockup in 2019. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Washington.
The U.S. Supreme Court is weighing a Trump-backed appeal to end limits on party spending in federal elections. The justices are revisiting a 2001 decision that upheld a provision of federal election law that dates back more than half a century. High court's also considering the administration's challenge to a 90-year-old decision limiting presidential control over independent agencies. Policymakers from the Fed are holding a two-day meeting in Washington, D.C. NPR's Scott Horsley reports.
Investors are fairly confident the central bank will lower its benchmark interest rate by a 0.25 percentage point tomorrow. They'll also be watching what Fed Chairman Jerome Powell and his colleagues have to say about prospects for additional rate cuts in the new year. There's considerable uncertainty as the central bank's trying to keep a lid on both inflation and unemployment. Pepsi is planning to cut jobs and narrow its product lineup by 20% as it works to cut costs and lower prices. The soft drink and snack maker has been under pressure from an activist investor. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. 10 Massachusetts-based groups are joining a coalition of environmental advocates pushing for a national moratorium on data center development. 200 groups signed the letter to Congress, as GBH's Hannah Shanatri reports. Data center growth has exploded across the country, including right here in the Commonwealth.
There are dozens of data centers in Massachusetts. Most are concentrated in the Boston area, and the sector is growing. The state's first hyperscale data center campus is expected to break ground in Westfield next year. Alan Palm leads the Better Future Project, a local nonprofit and one of the groups that signed the letter. He says regulation is needed to protect people across the state.
We need resident and citizen input about where these data centers are going to be built so that they're not already built in overburdened communities.
Data centers require huge quantities of power and consume enormous amounts of water to cool their equipment. In the letter, the environmental groups point to these issues as well as rising electricity prices as their key concerns. Hannah Shanatri, GBH News.
Eversource must return $45 million to customers as part of a settlement with Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell's office and the State Department of Public Utilities. State House News Service reports the settlement covers dockets going back to the 2020 acquisition of Columbia Gas of Massachusetts. Bruins are on the road. They're in St. Louis tonight. Sunny, cold today. We are at 30 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be back here tomorrow. Independent bookstore owners. We're going to have a little panel with Just Bookish from Dorchester and Turtle Books in Brookline. Plus, singer-songwriter Will Daly is going to be joining us, and he's going to be performing live. Hello,
and
Jim.
we should also say next Tuesday, a week from today, Mayor Wu will be here for an hour for Ask the Mayor. And the 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, Governor Healy will join us at the library for an hour to do the same thing, answer your questions and ours. While online sports betting runs rampant here, online casino gaming is still legal in Massachusetts. You have to physically be in a casino to place a real money bet on games like blackjack, roulette, whatever. Some lawmakers want to greenlight online casino gaming, putting oversight in the hands of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Others want to ensure more regulation, requiring companies to double their contributions to the state's public health trust fund, citing real concern over gambling addictions. Today, we're joined by two people on opposing sides of a lot of these issues. State Representative David K. Muradian, Jr., supports expanding online gaming. Representative, it's great to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
David Nangle is a former state rep himself, who's now executive director of something called Sigma, Stop Internet Gaming in Massachusetts. Says it's a bad bet. David Nangle, it's great to have you too. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you both for coming in. So let's start with David Muradian. Tell us what this bill that you're supporting would do.
Sure. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for the offer to be here. One of the things that I actually meant to say to you, Jim, earlier was we've actually run into each other before.
How?
We have. So, Granite Telecommunications
Oh,
and
my
Rob
goodness.
Hill
Oh.
does Saving by Shaving.
Yeah.
And so what they do, for those that don't know, is they buzz everyone's head and all the money goes to cancer research. And at the time, there was a colleague of ours whose daughter worked there, and so she got a bunch of the legislators to go. And Rob Hill was gracious enough to donate, I think it was $50,000 per legislator's hair. And so you and I sat there, and you actually interviewed Colin Spinney, who is from Grafton, a young boy who...
Oh, I actually remember him.
Yeah,
I do.
Yep, and so Colin had brain cancer and is a survivor and is thriving and is actually in the process now of applying to college. So he's doing quite well.
Now, the reason I want you to know, the reason the representative referenced that, I used to go with Governor Baker. We would go whenever.
That's right. Get
whatever.
your head shaved.
Is because he knows how I feel about gambling and he's trying to soften me up. It is not working.
Trying to humanize
Having
the
said that,
topic.
I'm sorry you failed. Okay, but it's good to see you again.
No, I appreciate it.
No, Rob
So-
does great. And by the way, Rob Hale, I had him on television. Also, he and his wife gave $1 million a week to nonprofits, mostly on the South Shore. I mean, he's just really a wonderful soul.
Yeah,
In any
they really
case,
are.
What's your take? What are you trying to do with online gambling?
So what House Bill 4431 proposes to do is bring everything that's in the shadows in an unregulated market to the forefront so that we can have consumer protections in place. That is the number one goal of the bill. When you move forward, and I know that it's been mentioned, you have the Department of Public Health, Mass Gaming Commission, and the Public Health Trust Fund. What we want to do is try to reinvigorate them, bring more money into the equation to provide the services for those that do need them. There obviously is an economic benefit to bringing it to the forefront, but the number one goal, in my opinion, and many of the people who support it, is the consumer protections, making sure that individuals from the Commonwealth have an opportunity to participate in a regulated market, not in the shadows, not offshore.
So, David Nangle, if it's happening anyway, why should we not shine some light on it and do it exactly as the rep just mentioned?
Thank you, Jim. Marjorie, again. As I say, how much is enough? We already have the lottery. We have sports betting. We have casinos. We have the iLottery coming down the road, potential. It is coming down the road. I mean, do we really want to put a casino in everybody's pocket 24/7? Just my thought. I just don't think that we need to do it. I think we already have enough gambling here in Massachusetts.
But is the representative right that this is that the gambling is going on anyway, just under the covers as opposed to in the light of
It
day?
definitely is happening in the black market. But as I say to my friend, with the cannabis, when that came around, there's still a black market for cannabis. In all the states that have currently have the iGaming now, the black market is still there and persistent.
Well, the thing, correct me if I'm wrong here, we've got sports betting already on people's phones, right? And we're reading that an awful lot of young people are sports betting. They're flaunting the rules. They're supposed to be over 21 and they're over 18 and they're 13 and 14. That's a concern.
It's unbelievably concerning, and I agree with you on that. And one of the things that I said when the bill was being heard was we can't legislate morality. If a parent isn't going to enforce a child to stay off of these sites, then there's nothing we can do. What we can do is try to regulate it and make sure that the industry is holding true to 21 plus and making sure that there are safeguards in place. There's different things to geolocate, make sure people within the Commonwealth, and make sure that there's age verification. That's one of the very big things of
But age
4431.
verification hasn't worked online with cannabis or with anything else.
Well, and when you're actually looking at, when we're saying that it's being operated offline and offshore, there's no verification there. There's absolutely none. So you don't know who's participating, you don't know what they're doing. I mean, there was a gentleman who came up to testify when we testified in November, and he sat in the north end, and within 20 minutes, he could download an app an offshore account and place a bet. That should not be happening. And what I want to do is make sure consumer protections are in place for everyone.
David Nangle, your bottom line, I mean, I know you don't want this to happen. And in the spirit of full disclosure, if people don't listen to the show, I am not a fan of this gambling and at all in the state's reliance on it. I want to talk more. When you asked the question, how much is enough, I want to ask the representative that in a minute. But it seems like your major concern in these battles is to ensure that if it happens, the expansion, that there's as much protection built in for people who suffered like you did. You're going to describe that to us, I hope, in a minute. I don't mean to pry into your personal life, but you've got a really relevant experience. That is your goal, is to provide as much protection if it's going to happen.
That's
yes?
correct. Jim,
is it doable to protect people, realistically?
To protect them from the gambling aspect of it underage? I don't think that it is. In a lot of ways, what we need to, with the black market, I might say, you can put all the safeguards in that you want, but with AI today, I mean, let's be real. You know, they're going to find ways around it all different times. But as far as myself, it's an open book. I was a state rep for 22 years. I hit a gambling addiction for over 40 years. Everything came crashing down in 2020. I lost my seat. I was incarcerated for a short time. I paid my debt to society, paid my restitution. And the thing that sticks out in my mind, I remember standing over in federal court in September of 2020 and looking at Judge Zobel and saying, Your Honor, when this is all behind me, what I would like to do is stop an individual, like say the kids, from traveling the road that I did for 40 years. That's what I'm doing now, trying to fulfill that promise.
Could you draft something right now that would have prevented you from having had the experience you had, or is it unavoidable if gambling is out there?
Gambling is gambling. It's going to be there forever. It was there. I think of it when I was a young man going through it. I thank God that there wasn't today what there is back then.
All the devices and all the opportunities, no casinos, no nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Mine was an old bookie on the corner and so forth, and running up to a racetrack in the day. That's how I started getting in trouble.
You know what I want to ask you, though? The addiction had to have been unbelievably powerful because you were a state rep. You know, that's a good job. You get elected to that. You had a family. The stress on you knowing you were going deeper in debt. I mean, how did you talk about how you kept going even though you knew deep down this is going to ruin your life?
That's what an addiction can do. I don't care if it's substance abuse or alcohol or a gambling addiction. Things happen and you just become so involved in it that you don't see the other side of it at the time while you're doing it. And it's the same thing in all forms of addictions.
You know, Representative Muradian, I am fairly closed-minded about a lot of things. I know it's shocking to listeners, but I understand that when we asked for the first time, when this online lottery, you could do it in your underpants on your couch, was proposed, we asked Governor Healy about it, and I was surprised she said outright, I absolutely support it. It's happening anyway, some of the same arguments you make, so I appreciate that. But at the same time, how about David Nangle's question? How much is enough? I mean, my attitude is that one of the reasons why the legislature, and starting with Governor Patrick, well, not so much Governor Patrick because he wasn't tax averse, but the legislature has embraced gambling in almost every form and expanded it whenever it could, was because they don't want to openly say to their constituents, we need more money. We're going to raise it as fairly as possible through some equitable tax thing, as opposed to for lottery. You know, for example, lottery is going to be online come next summer. There is no more inequitable way of losing your money. There's a complete Robin Hood in reverse kind of effect in the lottery. When is enough? Is it going to be a casino gambling on your phone, then something else? And is it ever going to end or no?
So to something that we mentioned earlier, if it's already happening, when it's estimated that a quarter to a third of all online gambling is done illegally offshore, I think when is enough? I think we need to put the safeguards in place to make sure people are operating in a regulated market. People are going to continue to do it. I believe that you'd referenced a panel from Harvard before, and they said, listen, gambling has happened in some form for decades and hundreds of years and thousands of years. So at some point, I want to make sure that there are the safeguards in place. And when you mention tax revenues and things like that, I don't think you're ever going to see me advocating for broad-based tax increase in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But if this bill is to be enacted and it sets up a whole new industry, there will be additional revenues going towards all the gambling prevention services, all the,
Yeah, but you're sort of saying
services.
we're going to create a problem and then we're going to use the money from the problem to try to fix the problem. Let me just pick myself as an example. Most people, luckily, don't suffer through what David Nangle is honestly willing to confront and to talk about, which I think is really important. I'll give you myself as an example, and I don't think I'm that atypical. Sure. I buy lottery tickets when it's $1 billion. If I could buy a lottery ticket while I'm sitting on my couch at home, I'd probably do it. But it's a huge effort to get dressed, get in the car, go to the 7-Eleven, stand in line behind women buying cat food because they can't afford their lottery tickets otherwise. Same thing with casino gambling. It's a trek to go to the Encore or to go to Plain Ridge or whatever the hell it is. But if it's on my couch, I, who am likely not going to be addicted, are much more likely to lose my money. And by definition, I will lose my money or gambling wouldn't exist. So what do you say to that proposition?
So I should also say that I am very, very proud to stand here with Dave Nangle and to have him speak about his past history. And it takes someone who's unbelievably strong to do that.
It really does.
That being said, I don't believe that there's going to be a substitute for going to a casino. I think the experience of going to Encore would supersede sitting on maybe not your couch, but my couch. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. There is nothing saying that Jim Browdy has to log on to his phone and do it. You have the capability to do it. You also, should this be legalized, would have self-exclusion limits. You could say, hey, you know what? I don't want to do it. I want to set limits. I don't want to spend more than $5 a day. I don't want to spend more than $1 a day. That's up to you.
But the people who have the biggest... I'm sorry, go ahead.
What prevents people, even if your bill gets passed, from going to these offshore sites? I mean, they'll just say, well, I can't do it here, so I'll go there.
So, and that's a great question, because when you look at individuals who, say, travel to Connecticut or travel to New Hampshire or travel to Rhode Island, we run the risk of not knowing what they are doing when they are outside of the Commonwealth, but we then end up absorbing all of their social costs, right? Okay. When they come back, if they have an addiction and they come back, we have to provide the services for them. If we have a regulated marketplace, we can actually see the user's profile. And when I'm very fortunate, I was one of the 6 that worked on sports wagering. And what I was saying when we were doing that was, if Jim or Marjorie or Dave has, we go to a bookie, they'll take action kind of like no matter what.
Right.
If it's a regulated market, they know our profile. They know how much we typically bet. If all of a sudden that bet spikes for whatever reason, a white flag goes up almost instantaneously. And that actually just happened when it came down with the NBA scandal. If you looked at Terry Rozier 2023, what happened, and I'm sorry, I'll go on a little tangent.
The basketball players that were indicted for...
But what happened was, all of a sudden, all the prop bets that came in on Terry Rozier, so all the different numbers, how many rebounds, how many assists, they all came in. All of a sudden, all this action was coming in below. They were taking the under, taking the under. No one would see that if you're offshore. So no one would even see that.
David Nangle, every time we've discussed this with listeners, every time in the last 25 years, the majority of callers say, why is it your bill won't gamble? So stay out of it, Jim or Marjorie or anybody else. She's much more laissez-faire about it than I am. What do you say to them? Let them live their lives and participate in what they want to participate in. They're not hurting anybody except themselves.
They can go on to do that, but there are thousands, millions of people here in America that have an addiction to it. And those are the ones that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the ones that might go down to Foxwoods for a social event, for an overnight, or whatever they may do for dinner and drinks and gamble. I'm talking about the people like myself that are addicted to gambling going forward. And I just wanted to touch on one thing. With the black market, that's just what will happen, is that if we do put these if the bill were to pass and you put these regulations in, people want anonymity. People want to pay lower taxes. They're not going to get questioned when they bet X amount during a day. So you're going to drive them back to the black market or to the black market.
So what do you say your primary concern is not the person who's not going to have a problem, to use a double negative, but the problem who's has potential for addiction or actually suffers from addiction. What do you propose? What do you support that could help those people? If we're going to move ahead with this, and the history suggests the legislature is probably going to do this at some point, despite your best efforts, what do you do to make it less likely that anybody suffers through what you had to suffer through?
The only thing I can do personally is get my story out there, and hopefully the bill doesn't pass. But if it does, just continue. I'm out there talking about it on a regular basis. The people that I work for, I'm out front telling the stories of what's going on. I have more people stopping me in the last 3 months on a regular basis saying to me, Dave, thanks for what you're doing, but they'll say, I have a grandson, or I have a son, or my husband, and they're coming out. It's like a silent group of people that you don't know about, that you're not hearing about.
David Nangle, how about mandatory limits, not an individual deciding what their own limit should be? Because it seems to me that the person who has the biggest problem is the least likely to set a reasonable limit on themselves. Why shouldn't the legislature, if they move ahead with this, or any of the pre-existing gambling, say there's a limit that anybody can gamble in one session or one day or one whatever?
Correct, which is in the bill, I believe.
There is?
That David's filed. I think there's something in there, but again, there's ways around it. If you get into AI, if you get into, these kids today, I keep talking, I zero
Kids
in on
today.
the kids. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to technology,
me too,
Marjorie.
me too.
And these kids find a ways, and if you set limits, whomever, there's ways for them to circumvent it.
Do you have anything in the bill, like David Nangle just said?
There's the opportunity for the individual to set their own limits. It wouldn't be a mandatory thing. Back in 2010, I know there were different amendments when we looked at casinos and trying to limit, and that, there was votes there too and amendments. Those didn't pass. Ultimately, the Mass Gaming Commission, who I trust wholeheartedly, will implement the regulations in place. And I do think there is a bit of kind of the self-responsibility that you made mention to, that, hey, when we talked about you sitting on the couch, you can set the limit to $1 a
But
day
he
should you
couldn't have
want to.
stopped. He wouldn't. If your thing became law, he wouldn't have had the power. David Nangle, I'm pointing out, if you're not watching on YouTube, he wouldn't have had the power to set a reasonable limit on himself under your law. You have to agree
He
with that,
most
right?
certainly could have. There's a self-exclusion.
No, I don't mean that he couldn't do it. Obviously, he could do it. He wouldn't have had the self-control to do it. By definition, he was addicted. Am I wrong?
When you're in the throes of addiction, nothing matters. As Marjorie, you alluded to earlier with me, look where I was. I was a state representative for 22 years. I threw my career away. I lost everything. I have a wonderful family that stood by me, of course, but I lost my reputation, my career, and the way to make a living. So when you're in the throes of addiction, whatever it is, you're not paying attention. You're not thinking about the repercussions that could come down the road, unfortunately.
David Muradian, I wonder too about Encore Casino's doing pretty well. I don't know how well Springfield's doing and Plainfield's doing, but they're very concerned that if this happens, that there'd be jobs losses, tax losses. They're worried about they're going to get thrown out of business.
You mean if the online thing happens?
Yes.
If online. So actually, there was a report that said that if this is to go to fruition, that really it could actually do a slight increase for all the brick and mortars. And what, and the great thing about sitting here with Dave Nangle and so many other people tuning in and providing insight, and especially the committee process, is you hear more from, the active people, the individuals who are going to participate or the industry experts. And one of the things that I would propose to add to the bill and change already from things that we've heard is having the opportunity for the dealers to make sure that they're in Massachusetts. So when you're online, I don't want to just sit there and see the roulette number pop up as 21. I want to see someone spin the wheel. I want that job to be in the Commonwealth. The bill also tethers all of the licensing to brick and mortar. So Encore would have the same opportunity for the individuals who want the Encore experience or the Plain Ridge Park experience or the MGM experience, but who don't have the capability to drive there. This gives them another opportunity.
To me, the thing that's so scary about this, and the cat's already out of the bag because people are already able to gamble on their phone, is, we talk about this constantly. You walk down the street, somebody under 25 years old, they're just glued to their phone. They go out to dinner, they're glued to their phone. They're already addicted to the phone. So I don't know how this is going to turn
Marjorie,
out.
you should, the day, is it Plain Ridge or Plainfield? I always forget.
Plain Ridge Park.
Plain Ridge Park. Marjorie and I were taken there the second night it opened by a good friend of ours, Sheila, and her husband, who shall remain unnamed for the moment. We went to the high-stakes slot machine room. There was one person in the room. And as we see the guy, he's sliding $100 bills into the machine, literally one after another. 100, it swallows it. Another $100 bill swallows it. Marjorie, reporter that she was, goes over to the guy and starts talking to him. What did he say he was?
He said he was an out-of-work construction worker.
Yeah, I mean, That's when you have that in your head. Well, go ahead, David.
That's
Nangle.
who you're preying upon if this bill were to pass. I mean, think about it. 24/7, you could be sitting in your living room. You could be wake up in the middle of the night and just be hitting buttons, playing blackjack, roulette. It's nonstop. There's no interaction. And the other thing I wanted to say with the casinos, though, from what I understand, is going to be a job loss. But you're also the valet parkers, the service workers there, the entertainment that goes with these brick and mortar casinos. They're the ones that are going to see a downtick in play there.
What's the bill number? I'm sorry, if people want to weigh in on this, David Muradian, if they call their legislator, what's the bill number?
It's House Bill 4431.
4431. Go
And
ahead, I interrupted
I want to touch on that. I hope that individual reached out to GameSense. I hope that individual reached out to DPH. If you look at the numbers in FY23, there was roughly 3,000 calls to a helpline. Out of them, about 600 were actually referred to further help. We're talking 20%. The population of Massachusetts at the time was 7 million. That's 0.04% of adults. That's the adults that are utilizing it. So we as a Commonwealth need to do a better job making sure that people understand that there are resources there. If this industry stays in the black market, there's no additional increase to revenues towards helping people.
You wanted to have the last word, David. You were leaning forward, David Nangle.
Well, I was going to say something. There's Stuart Kenny, who is the co-founder of a company that now owns FanDuel. And I just saw this the other day, and when I hit it, it hit me. The industry, his comments were, the industry is going to change dramatically in the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to go from being an entertainment business to a complete addiction business. I mean, I think that just says it all.
There's one honest guy in that industry.
Now,
So
hold
before
on,
you
hold
go,
on.
David Muradian.
I would like the last word here.
Well, I have a word, and then you can have the last.
Well, here's my last word, Jim. Why don't you tell the representative?
I'm about to.
Every time you mention the state legislature,
I'm about to.
What you talk about. Okay, go ahead.
What Marjorie would like to know. She's too shy, Representative.
Sure,
So
of course.
she asked me to ask this
I've never known
question
her to be
for
too shy,
No,
but-
she's a very shy person. She said, "Can you please ask Mr. Representative Muradian, why do you need a 5-month vacation every 2 years?"
We do not have a 5-month vacation.
No, I'm serving the
We absolutely
constituents
do not.
and whatever. Do you have formal sessions in those 5 months?
We do not have formal sessions throughout the holidays right now.
Yeah.
And then next year, according to the House schedule, we will not have a formal, so a recorded vote by the entire membership session. There are still many bills that will go through. There's about 90% of bills that require roll call. The other bills that are much more, to many of our constituents, a little more meaningful are the local bills. The ones that really help out on the local level. And a lot of those don't require a roll call.
Are your tickets to Portugal refundable? That's what I want to know.
I've
never been.
David
never
Nangle
been.
would like to say that his biggest regret about leaving this
Is
legislature
losing
is
the
the 5-month
5-month
vacation. What do
There
you
are
think,
no
David?
I want to say this. There's a lot of great people up there, and they work hard. Just because they're not taking roll calls, Jim, they're doing work back in the district.
yeah, sure
I
they
did
are.
it.
Okay,
but if
fine.
I could just close and say
What?
that I am the
Please.
executive director of a group called Sigma.
What's the website for that?
SIGMA-MASS.org.
SIGMA-MASS.org.
And you can go on there and learn all about us, and we'll keep you up to date on what we're doing.
Well, thank you both very much
Thank
for
you.
coming in. Much appreciated.
If we
Thank you,
invite
Mike.
you
Thank you
in
so much.
during your 5-month vacation, will you come in? You'll come to the show?
I'm never on vacation.
Okay, I
I'm
just
always
wanna be
willing
clear.
to come in. And I love
Fair
the
enough.
opportunity to sit here in front of everyone.
Thank
it's great.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Good to see you both.
We've
Thanks
been
so much
speaking
for
with
your time.
State
Appreciate it.
Representative David K. Muradian Jr. and former State Representative David Nangle of Sigma. And the website for Sigma is Sigma, S-I-G-M-A, Sigma-Mass, period.
We call it a dot, Marjorie.
Mass.org.
Call it a dot.
Mass.org. Okay. Sigma-mass.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming up
Good to
after
see
this
you
quick
both.
break, we'll
Thanks.
open the lines to get your thoughts on the concept of time banking. In this economy, your time might be more valuable, might be the most valuable asset, but some people are turning to community networks for services that would otherwise cost them a lot of money, bringing neighbors closer together in the process. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, time is running out for Congress to extend tax credits under the Affordable Care Act. Governor Healy is urging action. Data centers are a growing part of the Massachusetts economy. We'll look at the environmental cost. And this weekend, Northeastern plays the final game ever at historic Matthews Arena. That and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Box Center, presenting A Prairie Home Companion Christmas, featuring Garrison Keillor and more, at the Box Center Wang Theater, December 18th at 8. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com. And M. Steinert & Sons, New England's Steinway dealer since 1860, dedicated to meeting the musical needs of pianists of all skill levels. The Steinway & Sons holiday event is happening now through December 31st. msteinert.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow, an independent bookstore panel with Just Bookish of Dorchester and Turtle Books in Brookline, plus wonderful singer-songwriter. We've known Will for a long time. Will Daly performs live. Mayor Wu is here for an hour of Ask the Mayor on December 16th. Governor Healy is here for an hour of Ask the Governor on December 23rd. You've heard of Buy Nothing Facebook groups. We've talked a lot about that, where people offer up their used goods to the community in an attempt to curtail rampant consumerism. But now an old concept, I guess you call it sharing, is getting a renewal as inflation creeps into every aspect of our lives. Peace Out in the Globe by, I hope I pronounced the name right, Yogev Toby, is highlighting a community turning to something called time banking. You ever heard of that before?
No.
Nor had I. The system allows people to trade volunteer services, time essentially, in return for virtual credits for each hour they do volunteer, credits they can then spend on other volunteered services in the Time Bank network for things they need. For example, I help Marjorie organize her show prep. In exchange, she shows me how to plug in the power cord in my home studio. That is an example of time banking. Think about things like rides to the airport. This is really a really good idea. They could rack up, I don't know, a $50 Lyft or Uber bill, or you cash in on your time credits and have a neighbor do it for you for free. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970 to call or text. What do you make of the time bank idea? I love it. Marjorie and I had a little dilemma this morning. We're trying to figure out what we could offer to other people. We concluded Marjorie could share her root vegetable knowledge.
That's right.
And we concluded
And
that
Jim,
I had
Jim,
nothing.
You could hire Jim and he could tell you everything you're doing wrong.
I don't think that's a service most people are looking for.
We do this segment, Am I the A-hole? You could point out all the A-holes involved in a particular organization.
That'd be a long time
list.
commitment.
You're very good at that, though, Jim.
But the whole notion is, so you need help, let's say, with your computer, how to fix your computer.
Yep.
Jane Doe over here agrees to give you time, in return for which you pay it back, not necessarily to Jane directly, but somebody else, by giving an equal amount of your time to somebody else in your area of expertise. And not only is it financially helpful, but it sort of fits into the Robert Putnam, not bowling alone kind of concept. It's like a real communal kind of thing, which I really love.
They talk about people who have certain skills that you may not have, like being able to fix jewelry. They're very good. They're jewelry. I mean, a lot of these people have retired, so they're able to have more time to do this.
A lot of them are young, too, and haven't retired.
Yep, some of them are young, but or you're really good at garden work, which is very strenuous.
Like you, for example.
I'm not really good at garden work. I can, dig a hole and do a few things.
And you hire people.
Yeah. Or babysitting, rides to the airport that you mentioned. This guy that used to be an electrician, he still does electrical repairs for people on the side. Electricians are really hard to get, and they're really expensive. So he does that. You go to these things like TaskRabbit or Nextdoor. I never use Nextdoor, but TaskRabbit is good, but it's expensive, right?
Well, it depends on what it is, but you're paying for somebody to provide a service. And the goal here, we're not trying to put anybody out of work, but the reality is if you have time and some expertise in an area and want to share part, by the way, you don't have to be old and retired. You can be any age. If you have a free hour, you decide to help somebody in an area where you have great facility in return for which they'll help somebody else.
You think that really somebody 25 years old could get a contract with an over 55 living place, and they could spend the whole time fixing people, taking
how to turn on their computer?
Well, they're tech problems.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times are we asking, our young staff to help with turn on the computer, turn off the computer, do all those ridiculous things? I mean, that would be a great
But there are a million
things.
Maker. You have a hole in your sweater. There are people who know how to, what is that called, darning? Or what is that called? Whatever it is.
Darning?
Whatever the hell it is.
It's
When you have a hole in
knitting,
your sweater
right?
and they do something to fix the hole in your sweater.
I can sew buttons on really well. I could do a little
I
side
find that
thing.
really hard to
No,
believe.
I'm really good at sewing on buttons.
How do you know how to do that?
Because I learned it in 6th grade.
Can you sew anything else?
I can hem. I can hem. I can sew buttons.
When's the last thing you hemmed?
I've hemmed jeans, actually.
You have, really?
Yes, it's not that hard.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I learned that in school.
So we want to know...
877-301-8970. Have you ever done this? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you have a skill you might be able to trade with somebody? Babysitting, that's a huge thing. I mean, a lot of kids, young people babysit. They could trade that for getting something done for them.
By the way, you could help people edit. I mean, serious.
I could edit.
You could edit things or their writing if people are trying to become writers. That's
really
a
hard to
possibility.
do.
But there's no area where she has expertise. If you listen to the show,
no, there isn't.
Like her roasted root vegetables.
I make good vegetables. I'm good
Really,
I'm good at that.
Excellent.
I'm good at sewing buttons on. I'm not sure how many people need buttons sewed on, but you know something?
A lot of people.
They lose a button, and that's the end of the
screwed.
shirt.
That's it.
They just get rid of it.
Call Marjorie.
That's right. I am very good at sewing on buttons. I can show you how to do it. Or people that do things with woodworking, or people that are handymen. All those kind of skills that, a lot of people are very handy around the house. You could trade those skills easily. People do it for food. Some people, this one of the people in the story, she's older. She doesn't cook anymore. She has a young mother in the neighborhood who cooks her meals.
That's part of the time bank thing.
That's right.
That's what she provides in return. That woman who cooks gets something, and in return, she cooks for people who can't cook for themselves or choose not to. 877-301-8970.
Oh, here's a good one.
The concept is time banking. We want to know if you've done it, if you've heard of it, even if you haven't heard of it, or you don't do it. Do you find it to be an attractive notion that you would like to engage in?
Someone pointed out that I can make really good bows for Christmas presents.
You,
I'm
by
really
the way,
good
are the
at
best.
making
No,
bows.
you are the best Christmas rapper. I would say I've ever seen.
That's another
No,
one
you
of my
are.
skills.
You're
I'm
incredible.
a Christmas rapper and a bow maker. Matt from Narragansett says a service that Jim could provide would be to hold grudges for people. You could just call Jim up and tell him your grudge, and then let him hold it for you for years and years and years.
Well, everybody's got to be good at something.
And here's something else. I love doing laundry, but I hate vacuuming. So maybe this person could exchange doing laundry for vacuuming. I mean, there's a lot of things, if you're creative, you could think of. And the big deal is you save money. You could give people rides to the airport in your Tesla, la.
By the way,
they might like that.
I think it is not just to save you. It does save you money. It's also because there are a lot of things that people do have the skills to do that they don't want to do. Because they just don't like doing that thing. And if somebody else likes it and is willing to volunteer his or her time, I mean, that's why this is so great. It's not just a money saver, even though money saving is a big
money saver,
part of the deal.
And it's a communitarian thing where you're taking care of. We always talk about bowling alone, Putnam's book, and how terrible it is that we're all bowling alone or not bowling at all. And this is an opportunity to mix with your neighbors or in your community, people with whom you can exchange services. People used to do this a lot in the olden days, Jim. That's kind of kind of like bartering.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did that.
I can't pay you, but I can give you 50.
Yeah, when did you do that exactly?
I didn't do it, but in the olden days they were always doing it.
Okay.
In the little house in the big woods, they were always doing that kind of thing. They were making jars of honey from their bees'
Why don't you
nest.
tell us about the little house in the woods that you grew up in?
I did not grow up in the little house in the big woods.
Okay, the number is 877-301-8970. We are really into this. Apparently none of you are. So if you are, the number, could you mind if I give the damn number since almost nobody is calling?
Give the number.
877-301-8970. Be bold and share your thoughts with us. And by the way, if you don't like the idea, it is perfectly fine to do that too.
Well,
we'll just crush you like a bug.
We have a couple of people who don't like the idea. They didn't sign their name, though. This just sounds creepy, says a texter. No thanks. To quote my grandson, cringe.
By the way, you're a horrible cook. Can we agree you're a horrible cook?
Well, I can't cook much.
You're a horrible cook.
The
now, would
things
you
I
not?
cook,
I don't mean that
well.
in a critical way.
Yep.
What is the thing you cook well?
Roasted vegetables.
Okay, fine.
And tuna fish.
If some,
I don't have to cook that.
That's not quite cooking.
No,
if someone would make you a really good meal in return for which, again, you'd edit someone's writing for somebody else, would you not do that in a second to have a good meal delivered to you?
Yeah, editing, I wouldn't do that. I'd come over and make some roasted vegetables, or I'd do the laundry. I like to do the laundry. It makes me feel very good.
Okay, here's from Zoe. How old is Zoe? Zoe is not
I don't
old,
know.
Okay? Zoe, our colleague, is sitting over there. Am I old? Why is it cringe? This just seems like being a good neighbor, but with more formalized benefits.
Neighbors with benefits.
Well, I don't think that's what we're talking about exactly,
well, we're
but
talking
thank you for
different
that,
kinds
Marjorie.
of benefits. Andy in Boston says
By the way, that could be part of it too. Now that I think
could
about
be part of it too.
That might make this a much bigger hit than it appears to be so far.
They don't want to wind up in some FBI sting operation over there in
or
Watertown.
with having sex with an AI. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, Andy in Boston says, when we had our first child over 30 years ago, we started a babysitting co-op based on the time bank concept. We found 10 couples, all of whom had young children, and we kept a ledger book for exchanging babysitting time. If you babysat for someone, you earned hours which you could turn in for someone else to babysat for you. And she says for the first 12 years of our kids' lives, we didn't have to pay a babysitter once. And we could go out, and it changed our lives.
Well, there you go.
That's a great one.
That is a great one.
Yeah, you could find people at your kids' preschool or the parents at your kids' preschool.
I'm told you're a pretty good
or at your
babysitter.
school. I've become very good in recently. I'm very good at it.
Okay, we're actually going to take some calls. Aurora, you're in Newport. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Marjorie. So when I was a kid, I used to exchange cooking services for a deal on my rent when I was living in the South End.
Oh.
I was starting a business. I was bartending. I was trying to fix my budget. And I ended up exchanging food services and food shopping for a family of 4.
That is a perfect example of what we're talking about. And how'd that work out for you, Aurora?
Perfectly well, because I had roommates before that, and then I was able to live by myself because I could afford it at the time. So I was able to get rid of those roommates.
Okay, so Aurora, we have a person is kind of dumping on this a little bit, talks about how a major consideration with time banking that people overlook is exchanging time actually gets considered as a service and thus is taxable.
Oh,
I didn't even realize
really.
that.
No,
Did you ever get in trouble with the IRS, Aurora?
No, never. And I hope they're not listening today either, Marjorie, okay?
I think they actually are listening, Aurora.
Okay.
Aurora, thank you very much for your perfect example.
But you're the tax guy. A few people have texted
please.
about this.
I mean, really. So if you provided some editing assistance to somebody, they're going to report you to the IRS?
I don't know. I mean, we have these little tax...
You're going to wait. It's actually they're receiving the benefit. You'd report them to the IRS?
Jim, I'm just telling you that some of our texters who are little tax nerds like you are texting about the tax problem involved here.
Okay, well, let's ignore that. Allison and Webster.
Oh, we have an answer
Allison,
to darn.
hold on one second.
You don't darn sweaters.
What do you do?
Well, according to this texter, you mend a sweater and you darn a sock. Okay?
Can I tell you something about mending a sweater? I actually went to school with someone who mended a sweater. They went to jail for 11 years, tax charges. I didn't want to talk about it, but she was a good friend of mine. 11 years. She got out for good behavior after 7.
That's good.
But it was maximum security.
Okay,
Allison and Webster.
Hi,
what's
Allison.
your deal, Allison?
Hello. Well, first of all, I think Jim would be fabulous telling people what foods taste good.
That is, I could do that.
Taster.
Like non-stop. Allison, you're a genius. Go ahead.
That's right.
So I'm a social worker, and I think this is a great way, for so many people are lonely. I think this is a great way to build community,
That's
get
another
to know
good
people.
point. That's a great point.
But then, I help people find, one of the things I do is help people find resources.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I would do all the time. I would absolutely help people do this. I would love to give my services for free and just, connect people and help people's lives get a little bit better.
That's pretty great.
Wow.
That was beautiful,
That's
actually,
really
Allison.
nice.
I love that.
Social work is a tough job, though. You do it on the side in exchange for another service?
Well, I work with veterans, so and it's a joy working with them. So I would just do. I help friends, and I get people at friends and family asking me for questions on the side. So I just do it naturally. But if I can get some free hours and have people help me do some stuff around the house, I would definitely do it.
So would I. Allison, that was great. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for your call. We appreciate it.
Bruno says he would provide liverwurst sandwiches for free shot putting lessons.
Oh, let me tell you.
That's because you're his
No.
girlfriend.
No.
We're not.
No, it's not my love of my life.
Putter.
Not my love of my life. By the way, how humiliated were you the other day? Who do we have as a guest? You were making a joke about my friend from decades ago.
That's right.
Saying she was a shot putter. And the guy who was our guest's daughter was a shot putter. Who was that?
That was Adam from Guster.
It was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said his daughter's a champion shot putter.
Yeah.
Her name
that
is not,
shut you up,
her name
didn't
is
it?
not Harriet, though.
I know. She's a champion shot putter.
Yeah.
He's never coming back. Let's go to Alyssa in Dedham. You are next.
Oh, dog walking. Lisa and Wellesley. That's a good one.
That's a really
an
good
excellent
one.
Or dog sitting.
Dog sitting.
If you volunteer to have the dog over.
You're getting into this, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, those are things that are very expensive.
You know why people are all sending in these tons of ideas all of a sudden? Because they see roasted vegetables in their
That's
future.
Right. I tell you, nothing like my roasted red onion carrots. They are really scrumptious.
By the way, roasted red onions
That's
are
the key.
about as good
That is
as
the key.
anything there is.
That is the key. Yeah, would you roast them with the vegetables, and they give a certain taste to the vegetables. It gets slightly burnt, and it's delicious.
Love that. Alyssa, you're in Dedham. I think we're having a lot of feedback from Dedham. Hello there, Alyssa. How are you?
Oh, sorry, Jim. Hi, I'm well. I've turned off my radio, but no, I just wanted to say that my husband does a great job stringing lacrosse sticks and goalie sticks, and no money changes hands, but there's lots of bourbon that shows up in the doorstep, sometimes a Dunkin' Donuts gift card, and we're very happy for that. So it's a nice community. It's a very nice community we have, and, you know, the kids get rides and all that other good stuff. So.
Stringing lacrosse sticks, you said?
Yeah. It's like a netted thing. It's like a netted.
Oh.
You ever seen a lacrosse stick?
Yeah.
No. Oh, no.
Someone's got to string it.
Oh, like the little nets.
No, yeah, and it's sort of like a tennis racket. It's a lacrosse
know that, Alyssa.
thing.
That's a great skill. That's a good one.
By the way, Alyssa, you sound like a really smart caller. How interested would you be in a tray of roasted vegetables?
Roasted vegetables. I don't know. I don't think so. I usually go to Lambert's and find whatever the sales stuff is, throw it on the tray, and add some olive oil.
Yeah. She's not offended. She's not offended at all.
It's okay.
Alyssa, thank you. That's an excellent one.
That's a good one.
A lot of people are doing this. You didn't think that was true, did you?
I didn't think it was true. Listen to this. In 2008, my sweetheart's United Universalist Church started a common security club. People exchanged services. I wanted to try out becoming a personal organizer, so I offered to the group I could come in and declutter their home. If they were happy, I would ask for a recommendation in exchange. It went beautifully and was the beginning of what's become a successful 16-year organizing business.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. How about that?
That is an incredible story.
Nice thought, but what if there's a dispute? You could wind up on an episode of Fear Thy Neighbor.
Is that a show or is that a made-up thing?
I guess so.
877-301-8970. All of a sudden, everybody's interested in this, which is wonderful because it's a great concept. It's a communal concept. It is a cost-saving concept. It is a time-saving what?
Listen to this, Mr. Taxman.
Please, thank you.
Various cities in the United Kingdom tried the time bank idea back in the 90s. In Brighton, a unit was called the Bright. Eventually, the Taxman got wind of it and shut it down.
Okay, fine. That's the UK, right?
Yes.
Listen to this. One of our colleagues sent this to us. Fear Thy Neighbor. It's a show. It's an actual show documenting a series of crimes, I shouldn't laugh, in which neighbors, this is obviously British because it's neighbor with an O-U-R, take their quarrels too far as their feuds end in violence and even murder. I'm not laughing at the violence of the murder. Well, I am actually, but it's a show. So there you go. Craig in Dartmouth, we're talking about time. What is it called? Time banking. Hello there.
Hi, Craig.
Hello, Craig.
Hi. I was intrigued by it, and I understand the tax problem, but the other side of it is it's really bartering. I'm sorry, I have a reverberation.
It's our fault.
Keep
going. You're doing fine here.
But the social capital aspect of it that you're talking about, bridging social capital, is the foundation for, if you network it well enough, it takes you to voluntary associations, which are the foundation of democracy.
Beautifully put, Craig.
Great point.
Yeah, that was great, Craig. Actually, that's a wonderful point, and thank you for making it. What's that? Oh, Craig, I'm sorry. I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
He's back.
Oh, he's back. What were you going to say?
Actually, I've seen that happen in New Bedford, Massachusetts, when New Bedford had lost 10,000 of its 50,000 jobs in 10 years, 8 years actually, and they had an economy in crisis, and the newspaper pulled it out and invited people to basically write editorials on it. It ended up being a thing called the No Name Forum. We had 150 people on the list.
That's great.
And in 3 years, we generated unbelievable possibilities in New Bedford, the fourth largest aquarium in the world, a new airport, the national park. All of that came out. Most of it came out of that network, And nobody would have believed what was possible when we started just because we decided to put our effort into it.
That's a fabulous story, Craig.
Is there
Congratulations.
an aquarium in New Bedford?
Apparently.
No, but up to about $4 million got involved in trying to make one happen. They were negotiating with Boston, and ultimately it didn't happen. But it was part of Bill Wells' notion of choosing to compete.
Okay.
Where's the money? Where's the $4 million?
I don't know, but Gary Studs, who had been the congressman down here, had gotten involved in trying to make it happen.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Craig.
We had an airport. We had
did?
an airport, but
What
we
happened?
lost it to neighborhood politics.
Oh, that's horrible.
Oh,
okay.
that's too bad.
Well, those are good stories anyway.
Well, you know,
Craig,
the
thank
wind
you.
farm, a federal judge has
I
ruled
know.
that they can't that Trump can't shut down these
He's not
wind
happy.
farms.
I just read his comment a few minutes ago.
What did he say?
I mean, he's just not happy because God forbid we should produce clean energy and produce thousands of jobs. You know, it's
You know
one.
what cracks me up? You know what cracks me up? Everybody's talking about their energy bills, energy bills, energy bills. We had that woman call the other day. She has no energy bills because she has solar and
Wind.
is doing her heat of her house and her electricity. I mean,
You think Trump would do this time banking thing? I mean, you do something.
yeah.
No, you do something to Trump, and in return, I don't know, he deports your neighbor. Just that would be his
Well, that's true.
response to whatever.
That's true. Pamela says she's having her son's girlfriend and friends over to show them a few simple things to cook. Now, she says, I think I'll throw in a button sewing lesson. Not sure what I'll get in return. Maybe the Cool Mom Award. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, I've known you for decades. I had no idea you knew how to sew on a button.
Well, bring me a shirt tomorrow. I'll sew the
I'm
button
going to pull some buttons off tonight when I go home. I am. I'm going to rip those damn things off. I'm going to bring them in tomorrow. Do you need thread and a needle? Or you have your own needle and thread?
I have my sewing kit, of course, my thimble and my needles and my thread.
You do not.
Multicolors. Yes, I do.
Can you find
It's
it?
so-
That
no,
is really
I can
the
find it.
question.
It's so funny. These things you learned a million years ago
Yeah.
in school. I was
Yeah.
very grateful, although it was sexist.
No.
Because the boys all had, auto repair, and the
Can I
girls
tell you
all
something?
had home
I
economics.
had shop, and I want to. This is a serious thing.
Yep.
I was so jealous and angry that when I was a little boy and I couldn't do the cooking deal that all the girls were in, that was really horrible.
Yeah, we didn't get cooking in Fall River.
Well, we
but
had
did
cooking
learn
at
to
my place.
Sew buttons.
You know what? All the cooks, all the young girls who were in cooking, you know what else they did?
What?
Threw the shot put. It was incredible. Thank you back there in Brighton. I really appreciate
That's
your support.
Harriet Heidemann.
Okay.
It's a moment of nostalgia for Jim, thinking
Maybe.
of Harriet and the shot putting
No,
expertise.
she's not. By the way, if she exists, I would suggest she get a
exists.
lawyer.
I think.
And, you don't know that. Sue and Needham, let's, whatever, let's do something. Say something. Hello, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Jim and Marjorie.
Hi.
We listen faithfully.
I should hope so. Thank you.
In the wintertime, from October to April,
Yeah.
I hand crochet 4x4 acrylic throws or stroller blankets.
No.
And
Wow.
all these different colors, and the only thing that changes is the color. The pattern remains the same, and I just give them away.
Wow.
So you're keeping a list. I can give my information to your operator, and people can call me.
Well, wait, actually, we're going to put you on hold in a second because I want one of those babies too. And what do you get in return? Do you just do that out of the goodness of your heart, or do you expect something to come back to you?
Well, I've started a little cadre of people who own them at my senior community.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so there are lots of people there who are putting them over their chairs and their laps.
That is fabulous. Hey, Sue, that's a
Sue,
great way
thank
to
you
end
for the
this
call.
discussion. That was excellent.
Chris from Boston says she's a great massage therapist. I exchange baked goods from a great baker. She makes me awesome Christmas cakes for $15, and I give her a great hour-long massage.
You know, you didn't taste my olive oil cake that I
know, I
made
was
for
sorry.
Dory
Did
Greenspan.
you make the olive oil cake?
I made the olive oil cake.
Do you have any left?
I do,
you bring
actually.
me some
The staff
tomorrow?
was upset because I didn't bring any in for
Yeah,
them,
bring
which
some
was
tomorrow.
really
I love
incredibly
olive oil
rude.
cake. It's really good.
No, Jamie told me not to bring it in for anybody, so I didn't. Jared, he's off today, so I can say that. Jared,
Okay, hi, Jared.
Now, let me tell you something. The notion, this is one of these things where I really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The notion that Jared is going to get in a time bank with anybody and either share volunteer time or receive something, it's roughly zero. Is that a safe assumption, Jared?
That might be a very safe assumption today.
I figured I was on good, solid ground there. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you want high quality. people are saying you can't always get high quality.
You're saying
in these
Sue from
exchanges.
Needham, when she's crocheting that stuff, is not
No,
doing high quality?
But there are exceptions to the rule. Not
There
everybody
are.
can be a Sue from Needham.
No, that's a very
Isn't
good
that
point.
correct, Jared?
I think that's true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, but we do good things without expecting things, right? We can
That's
also
right.
do that.
Giving without expecting anything in return.
Right.
Okay, so what's
I
happening?
always expect something in return.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
olive
If
cake.
you started giving something, you
That's
might
right.
get something in return.
By the
Thank
way,
you.
I didn't get
Whoa.
any olive cake either, Marjorie. I'll
Yeah,
just
that's
tell you
right.
that.
It was
And I
really,
in that
trust me,
studio.
it was incredibly good.
Well, every day Jim brings me leftover fruit, and most
Not
of
left.
it's gone
What is
bad.
left over about
It's
fruit?
gone
I chop
bad.
up fruit and I bring it in.
Yeah.
I've seen that. You're blowing off the fruit flies.
Can I
Yeah,
tell you
the
something, by the way?
cantaloupe has had it.
That is so, that's, I really am upset about that. When I cut the fruit last week, it was great. And the fact that you waited so long. Okay, what are you doing on the show there?
Patti Smith. We have a huge show today. Patti,
She's
the
fabulous.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and literary lion, Patti Smith is on about her new book, Bread of Angels, where it, just like Just Kids before it, she has a very introspective look at her life. We'll talk about Charles Dickens, actually, and how for a while he made Boston his home. It
He's
was
on?
incredibly popular. He's a great guy, you know, that Charles Dickens.
Well, he's doing great
job.
work. That's what Trump said about Frederick Douglass.
Yeah,
right.
Frederick Douglass
Go ahead,
doing
I'm
great
sorry.
work.
And then Eliza Smith is here to talk about just winning Female Country Song of the Year in Nashville, and she's
great.
a Bostonian, so she's going to perform for us as well.
Wow.
Jared, what a great
That's a hell of a
show.
show.
And then I'll see you all at dinner tonight.
We
Yes.
will. We have a joint
At Jared's
dinner
table.
at Jared. We won't say where, but we are all having dinner together at Jared's
table. That's correct.
Yep.
Thank
Jared,
you,
we'll see you
Jared.
tonight. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. You can keep up with us 24/7 way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we are back here at the library with the Culture Show's Jared Bowen. We just talked to him. Harvard National Security expert Juliet Kayyem, owners of 2 local bookshops, Just Bookish in Dorchester and Turtle Books, which just opened a Brookline, plus the great singer-songwriter Will Daly and our Animal Authority, Cy Montgomery. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conlon, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, our executive producer, Jane Bologna. Special thanks to the BPL staff, Maddie Guy, Patrick Lally, Juan Jose Cadena, our host at the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. The Culture Show with Jared Bowen and Patti Smith starts right after us here on 89.7 GBH. I'm Marjorie Egan.
And I just want to say, if you text Marjorie after the show, she will hand deliver a bowl of roasted vegetables to your house, depending on the zip code, obviously.
That's right.
I'm Jim Browdy. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Bye.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. A local journalist is diagnosed with Alzheimer's and sets out to document his journey. Renowned Alzheimer's expert Dr. Rudy Tanzi joins us to share awareness and prevention of this silent thief. Don't miss Have You Heard About Greg? Tonight at 7:30 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, Patti Smith, the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and literary lion. In her new memoir, Bread of Angels, she traces the early forces that shaped her life before her breakthrough album, Horses. She reflects on childhood rituals, literary awakenings, and the love and losses that defined her. Then the ghost of Christmas past leads us to 19th century Boston, when Charles Dickens took up residence at the Parker House and packed halls with his readings of A Christmas Carol. We revisit the frenzy he inspired and the traces he left behind in a city that briefly became his own. And Boston-based country artist Eliza Smith is making waves in Nashville. She just won Female Country Song of the Year for Nashville Don't Forget Me, a title that now feels prophetic. We'll hear how she's bridging two music worlds with her voice. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen, this is The Culture Show, and this is Free Money. It carried her from New York's clubs to a national audience and helped fix her reputation as the high priestess of punk. In her new memoir, Bread of Angels, she takes us into the world that shaped her long before the clubs, a post-war childhood, her private rituals of reading and writing, the mother whom she was addressing in Free Money. Smith's young imagination could commune with the King of Tortoises, or French poets, or Bob Dylan. Bread of Angels is also the story of stepping away. Smith leaves the spotlight to build a life with Fred Sonic Smith outside Detroit. They marry, have 2 children, and make a home. When Fred dies in 1994, the grief is total. For a time, the work stops. Patti Smith moves us through that darkness and onto the slow return to creativity, first to the notebooks, then to the stage. Her memoir reads like an epic novel, an odyssey in which she's crossing the oceans, from her birth to new illuminations of her family and ancestry. It's a resonant continuation of the story she began in Just Kids, her National Book Award-winning portrait of becoming an artist alongside Robert Mapplethorpe, and M-Train, her meditation on love, loss, and the rituals that sustain a life. But this work is about the ride we take ourselves on, as she writes. It's about the debris of life and what it means to consider it all when we go back to the beginning, to be in search of childhood's hour. On December 17th, Patti Smith appears at the Chevalier Theater for a Brookline Booksmith event. Patti Smith, welcome to The Culture Show. It is such a privilege to have you here.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your words. I feel like, what could I say after that? But thank you so much.
Well, I have so many questions, and they are your words, going right back to In Search of Childhood's Hour, a phrase that resonated with me throughout my reading of this book. What has it meant to you at this point in life to consider childhood's hour, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I think, as childhood, I was trying to at least permeate a period, even for an hour, of that, purity where imagination knows no bounds, where before we become in the age of reason, we know right from wrong, we question, we doubt, we become feeling guilt or shame and all the different things that human beings have to go through. Just, that period where everything is possible and innocence is king.
Wait, in your memories, there's such clarity to your memories. Are they images, scenes, senses that have always stayed with you, or did you work to go back to those moments in the high chair, for instance?
Well, they've always stayed with me. My mother was a great oral storyteller, and I guess she passed the ability to tell stories of one's life and formulate them as stories, I suppose, to keep one's attention or to entertain. But I also had a captive audience. I had my brother and sister, and we loved to, when we were little, if it was a rainy night or, we couldn't sleep, we were all in the same little room with 3 twin beds, to allow me to, they would want me to tell them stories about ourselves and recount and relive them. And we did that. My sister and I still, both of us at the end of our 70s, still do that. We still go through and talk about these same events very vividly. but also because we lost our brother quite young. I think we want to keep him with us and alive in the stories that included my brother. So a lot of it is, again, like in Just Kids. Robert loved for me to tell him late at night our story, as we called it. He wanted to hear the whole story, our new adventures, and so I would tell stories about us. And so it was the same kind of the same process. And I think that has really helped me as a writer.
Well, speaking of Robert Mapplethorpe, you have said, and as you write in this book, he just at the very end wanted you to carry that story forward. That was
Yes.
the impetus for Just Kids. What was the impetus for sitting down to write this book, which is, well, we'll talk about the loss in a moment, but you've already mentioned two sizable ones in Robert and your brother.
Well, I think I just, first of all, at this point, there's biographies, unauthorized biographies, all different accounts about me that, aren't even, they're not true, or they're untrue, or they're made up, or not even as good as the truth, not as interesting. And after a while, one gets tired of that because you let it go, and then it's in the press, then it's in a book, and then it's in another book. And I had a desire to set certain records straight, not to go after any people, not to combat people, but simply tell things as they are. But also, even more important, bring people. I wanted these people that were so important to me to be remembered, and bring them to people just as I hopefully brought Robert to people, because they all died young. My husband had just turned 45. My brother was 42. My pianist, Richard Soul, was 37. So many people that were important and helped shape me, and, were protectors, my knight. And I wanted people to know of them because they're not here to speak of themselves. So I think it's a book of remembrance, but also gratitude. The book gave me an opportunity to thank a lot of people, even with one line, to thank my art teacher that I had when I was 15. Just a line here or two, or maybe it's a chapter, but a way to thank my parents, thank, my dog, thank my siblings.
To what extent, I felt this so much in the way you were writing, and you even acknowledge if you could just have another hour with your mother, for instance, to what extent are these figures still with you on a regular, if not daily basis?
Oh, they're with me all right. My mother still scolds me. And, I seek my father for certain counsel. I just go back in my mind and what would he say? Or sometimes I can hear his voice. And we always, my son and daughter and I, keep their father with us daily. I mean, we tell funny stories, sad stories, or it could be simply like, oh, Dad would love that shirt. We'll be in a store, or, oh, he would hate the internet, or he would love this new group, or, simple things like that. He's always with us. And I think that I don't feel haunted by the people that I love. I just feel like I walk with them, they walk with me. And I can feel, their presence if I need them, their counsel if I desire that. And but it's a two-way street. We have to be able to listen to them, empty ourselves and listen, and they will come to us. But we have to listen as well as solicit.
Well, part of it feels like it happens in this place called Vagabondia. You have that's a chapter name, but it's also the name of a room. And I use that word odyssey deliberately because you conjure images of the seas and boats and these big adventures of an intimate nature at the same time. I don't know if that's possible, big and intimate. But what is Vagabondia? What is this realm?
It's funny that you should say, I love that you use the term odyssey, but I don't even know how to swim. And yet I'm always imagining, since I was a child, I think it's part of the Peter Pan mythology. It's, the ship, the treasure ship, the pirate ship, winking and blinking and nod with their little boat. But Vagabondia for me is the country of the mind that we can, part of it is real, physical, because I am somewhat of a traveler. I'm not a big adventurer. I'm not a physical adventurer. I don't hike. I couldn't climb a mountain. I don't do well in high altitudes. So, I'm the kind of adventurer that's looking for cafes from city to city, or even a cafe in a jungle. But Vagabondia is both the challenges of physical and the beauty of physical travel, but also the mental traveler. And I am quite the mental traveler. And so Vagabondia is both things, traveling the mind, or as Shakespeare would say, the country of the mind, or just, whatever roads we take.
If you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Patti Smith about her new book, Bread of Angels, her new memoir. On December 17th, Patti Smith appears at the Chevalier Theater for a Brookline Booksmith event. Do you write every day? And what, in the wake of all you've been through, has it meant to you to be able just to commit to that act?
Well, it's something I can thread back to my love of books, starting with I loved books when I was 3 years old. I've always loved them. I wanted to read them. Then in reading them, I wanted to write them. It's always been a constant. Yes, I wanted to be a painter. I was fortunate enough to have a rock and roll band. I've done many things, but writing has been my one constant companion and how I define myself. And, it requires a lot of discipline, a certain amount of heartache, frustration, but I always have it. And it's something I believe in and something I've worked toward every day when I can. One of the reasons that touring is difficult for me, and another reason why I bowed out in 1979, was it's not conducive to writing, because touring and doing concerts is a very extroverted and collaborative vocation. And writing is very solitary. And it requires, for me, a certain amount of solitude. It allows me to go within myself. And when I'm on tour or going on stage, the most important requirement is that I come out and offer myself to the people and be there for them. And so it's a conflict. And I'm very fortunate to have these two, this kind of duality. But after a time, I'll be 79 at the end of this year. It's time for me to, really decide my priorities in life, and writing is at the very top.
When you were going through that loss, I think all of us, especially the way you write it, it's shocking, it's horrible. We've all experienced loss. You had this horrible succession of it. Were you able to write throughout, or did you have to work? You worked your way back?
I didn't write through that. That's I was writing obsessively when my husband was declining health-wise, but I was like, almost obsessively writing the same thing over and over. I couldn't really move forward. And when he died, I couldn't write anything. And then my brother died, and I just found it impossible. I had 2 young children. I was very focused on them, and I just had nothing to say. I couldn't articulate all of the things I was feeling, and sometimes I was just feeling numb. And I was, but desiring to create. That's one day I wrote about it. I picked up my husband's old Polaroid camera, and there was film in it, and I took a photograph. And the immediacy of it and the fact that I did something that day gave me some feeling of accomplishment. So for several months, I focused on that. And eventually I was able to write again, but it was it was difficult. I wasn't afraid that I'd never write again. But on the other hand, I couldn't write. I couldn't. So I did other things. I recorded, I took care of my kids. I, made a living, and did a lot of visual work. And eventually the pen started scratching again, and I was able to write.
To talk about your husband for a moment, you respect his privacy to a great measure in the book, but it also it starts on a really high note as you're dating, and then literally on your wedding night. And I haven't seen you talk about this anywhere, but this extraordinary thing that happened on an airplane where everybody, it seemed, thought you were going down, but you knew you weren't.
Oh, well, I just have a sixth sense about that. I think it's because I've fought so many illnesses. I've had tuberculosis. I had a pandemic flu in 1958, and doctors would give up on me, and my mother would be crying, but I always knew I was going to prevail. And we were, it was our honeymoon. We were up on our way to Florida from Detroit. I have never experienced anything like this before or after in a plane. Everyone was screaming. Lightning bolts were coming through the windows, it seemed. It was just, people were crying and things were flying around. But I just felt I was there in my old Victorian wedding dress and in an old camel hair coat. And I was just feeling like, I could conquer the world. I had just married the love of my life, and nothing was going to happen to me. And I really had to stand up and talk to these, shouted to them, "We're going to be all right. We're going to live. Don't frighten your children." And at one point, I even sang to them. I was singing Because the Night, or so I can't remember what song. It might have been Because the Night. Anything to distract these people, because I was feeling still euphoric. I had just been married, and I was, looking, starting a whole new life. And there was no way that some lightning, thunder, and turmoil and a plane practically rolling over was going to stop me. And
you still
we prevailed.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
You also write about your husband that you lived in each other's skin. You lived inside the same skin, is how you phrased it, which I think is just so beautiful.
Well, I don't think I could break that down. I just wrote it. I guess it's a way to say that, we just surrendered to one another without losing the concept of self, but we became, one unit. And then, as we were in time, we both pursued the studies or things that interested us, but we were always connected, even when we were angry at each other, even if it's not like we didn't have rough times. We had, just like everyone else, many rough times, but even in rough times, we were still absolutely connected.
I alluded to this in the introduction. Your understanding of your family changed pretty dramatically around the time you turned 70, when you learned that the man you'd known as your father wasn't your father. To what extent did that just change the order of things?
Well, I mean, it didn't. I really admired my father. I didn't just love him. I really admired him and modeled myself after him. My father was not the perfect father. He was somewhat disinterested. He was in his own world, but he had a beautiful mind. And I just was proud to have him as my father. That part of it was somewhat painful, but only because we attach a lot to blood. And I had to reconcile that I didn't have his blood, but because I had so purposely modeled a lot of my thinking and sort of a lot of my behavior after him, not my raucous behavior, my other types of behavior, that philosophic behavior, that was as strong as ever. I, in the end, it's just, I was always different than my siblings. I was physically different. I had different kind of bravada. I had definitely had things that you couldn't really trace to anyone else. So I always attributed the fact I was just the weird one, or I was an artist. But now I had someone that I could pinpoint as, that someone who gave me other things genetically that no one else could. And, in the end, I'm grateful to him. He and my mother gave me my life. My father, who raised me, helped me develop my mind and, my personal philosophy. And so I feel very fortunate. But the main thing that it made difficult was because I was writing this book. A lot of the book was centered around my father in the earlier part of the book. And I didn't know how to deal with this. I wanted the book to be absolutely truthful as much as I could grasp the truth. So what do I do with this information? If I hid it or just kept it quiet because it's no one's business, or then it would lose that aspect of truth. But how would I present it? So I actually stopped writing the book for a couple of years. I think then I wrote Year of the Monkey. And I spent a lot of time with Sam Shepard because it was at the end of his life. And I just tabled the book for a while until I worked all this out. And I remember telling Sam, and he said, I said, it turns out I'm not 50% Irish. I'm actually, Ukrainian, sort of Ukrainian, Russian Jewish. And he said to me, well, you love Gogol. Gogol was Ukrainian, Bulgakov, and I have always loved, Russian culture and the Ukrainian writers. So, we just laughed about that, really. But I couldn't write about it. I had to really think about it and think about how, to make it for other people a positive thing. Because I've known a lot of people in my life, even relatives, who found out a similar thing and were very bitter. Yeah. Angry at their mother, feeling they were lied to, that their life was a lie. And, that's really, for me, not the way to look at it at all. People do the things they do to survive themselves. And in the end, you find out there's another person involved in who you are, then be grateful for that person. Because, life is the best thing we have. My father, who raised me, gave me, so many ideas, set me on so many different spiritual and intellectual paths, but he actually did not physically give me life. So I have two men to be grateful for. And, that's fine with me.
Well, Patty Smith, as I said at the outset, what a privilege to have you here. I think I was saying just as you signed on, I cannot wait to turn back and read this book all over again because there is
That's so nice.
So many layers to this, and I know how much more absorption I have, the capacity for absorption I have for your storytelling and sharing. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
It was really nice talking to you.
Well, likewise.
If you ever want to talk to me again, I'm there.
I will definitely take you up on that. Thank you so much. Patty Smith earned the National Book Award for Just Kids. Her latest memoir is Bread of Angels. On December 17th, Patty Smith appears at the Chevalier Theater for a Brookline Booksmith event. To learn more, go to brooklinebooksmith.com. Coming up, the ghost of Christmas past, how Charles Dickens once filled Boston's halls by performing A Christmas Carol, briefly making this city his home along the way. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
The topics change, but the conversation never stops. Boston Public Radio is the show made for you and with you.
We apparently have a poll on YouTube. 59% of our YouTube viewers believe Mr. Potato is attractive. I wouldn't call him attractive. Would you call him attractive?
Can we put up his picture one more time with that suspicious mustache?
Oh, he's up
he
there.
wears?
He's on the...
Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio. Weekdays 11 to 2, only on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Classic Harbor Line, offering classic yacht cruises throughout the holiday season in Boston and New York City for families, date nights, and corporate gatherings. More at classicharborline.com. And Bonsai Bar, hosting pop-up beginner bonsai workshops at breweries across New England. Hands-on classes provide guidance in the basics of bonsai design and care in a group setting. More at bonsaibar.com. And Revels. Audiences can experience the joy of the holiday season with Midwinter Revels, a Scandinavian story for Christmas, December 12th through 28th at Sanders Theater, Harvard University. Tickets at revels.org/midwinter.
Support independent local journalism. Gain a possible tax advantage and clear out your garage all in one when you donate your old vehicle to GBH this holiday season. Learn more at gbh.org/vehicle donation.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Tomorrow at our library studio, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll joins us to preview 200 Mass 250 celebrations in 2026. Join us as part of our studio audience tomorrow again at the Boston Public Library. But right now, it's two tales of one city. Boston has its own storied history, but for a brief electric moment in the 19th century, it also became the city of Charles Dickens. During his final American reading tour, the author made the Parker House Hotel, now the Omni Parker House, his home, the place where he rehearsed, wrote letters, held court, and prepared for the performances that sent Bostonians into a literary frenzy. Crowds lined the streets, lecture halls sold out in hours, and here he read A Christmas Carol to rapt Boston audiences. Now, with A Christmas Carol back in the holiday spotlight, we're exploring Dickens' own time in Boston and how the Parker House became such a defining part of that story. Joining us is Susan Wilson, the official house historian of the Omni Parker House in Boston. Welcome to The Culture Show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Jared.
Well, this is such a fun story about Charles Dickens' love of Boston. He came here twice and was a major celebrity both times. We'll get into that because celebrity and fandom is not a new phenomenon. But what brought him here?
Well, he came to the United States and to Boston twice. First was in 1842 when he was only 29 years old. And then the second one was in 1867 to 68. And basically, he came here why so many other people from the other side of the Atlantic came, which is because the audiences loved it. We loved the culture that came from the other side, whether they were musicians or authors, whatever. And he was a literary superstar, especially by 67, but even by 42. And so everybody wanted to hear him. And one of the big things was when he came in 1842, he had actually gone back to Britain and written a book called American Notes, in which he kind of trashed a variety of things in America. One of the things he trashed was slavery, and there's a good reason to trash that. But Americans were very upset with him for a while. But by 1867, everybody had forgotten, and there were so many wonderful books he had written, including A Christmas Carol, because he wrote that. It came out in 1843, and so it was basically 25 years since he'd been here, and that book had come out, and Americans and Bostonians loved it.
But it's interesting to note for that book in which he trashed America, it seemed that there was Boston and then America, that he loved Boston, and his views of America went down when he left our city's confines.
He did love Boston, and there were many reasons. For starters, he linked in with a group that came to be known as the Saturday Club. And the Saturday Club, which actually met at the Parker House, included people like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who was a very good friend of his, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Oliver Wendell Holmes, just your basic household names.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so he loved being with them. He also loved Boston in general. Also, his very, very favorite publisher was in Boston, a guy named James T. Fields, everyone called him Jamie, of the company Ticknor and Fields, was his local publisher. And the thing that endeared him there was that international copyright law basically didn't exist. And books like A Christmas Carol, very often publishers in the U.S. would get the book, copy it, and sell it, and give him nothing, and he wouldn't be protected. And so Jamie Fields felt bad about this, and with Dickens, as well as with his other authors, he basically created the first known system of royalties and said, what I do is for you, you're going to make money off this. When Dickens came back in 1867, he made a special 1867 diamond edition of A Christmas Carol, not pirated, and protected him. And so, there were a variety of things like that, but those were the big things that made him really love it, and the audiences adored him.
Well, I want to go back to that in a moment, but first, as we think of him away from the audiences, holed up at the Parker House, how did he use that space? What did it become for him?
Well, when he came in 1967, he was not in fabulous health, so it was a good hideout, okay? He was on the third floor in a suite. He was there with his agent, Dolby, and so we actually, in the lower level lobby of the Parker House, have his actual 8-foot tall wooden door on display. And you would walk in that, and then the suite had two sides, and it was a beautiful place with a fireplace. And we actually still have the mantle from his fireplace in the Dickens suite. And he could hide out there. He could practice. He actually often had his meals served there. At the time, we had one of the most famous French chefs in America, a guy named Augustin Anaison, who was world-renowned. And at the time, we're pretty sure Parker House rolls and Boston cream pie existed, so he ate quite well. He ate quite well. But he also, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. He was like a rock star.
Yes.
Okay.
Years ago, I read this biography, and sorry to interrupt you, but
sure.
because I'm fueling what you're about to say, because I never had an understanding of how far back celebrity goes until I read about what happened to Charles Dickens. So yes, please do this deep dive so people understand that Taylor Swift has nothing on Charles Dickens.
Not at all. Not at all. He was very much like a rock star. Now, it's hard to imagine, but when you think of authors doing readings, okay, which is what he came to do a tour basically of the Northeast of the United States. He was here for 5 months, by the way, and his home base was the Parker House for 5 months. But he would go out and do readings, but he didn't just open a book and read. He was a trained actor, okay? So he had this giant mirror still on display in the mezzanine. Okay, you can come and visit and look at it.
And we're showing it on our YouTube stream right now so that people can see this as well.
Fabulous. Anyway, so this giant mirror, and he would practice voices and faces and gestures. So he could do Tiny Tim and he could do Scrooge and just enrapture people in the audience. And regularly people laughed, they cried, they were just totally enchanted by him. So much so that they did charge money, okay? He came here to make money. This wasn't just, just for fun, okay? And he made a lot of it. So each performance, he could easily attract 2,000 people. His very, very first performance of A Christmas Carol, the first time the author read it in the United States, was right around the corner from the Parker House at Tremont Temple. And there were lines for blocks, okay? And there was scalping of tickets. Okay, so no, Taylor Swift is not the only one.
No.
Yeah, and basically what he had this little setup. Since he was a trained actor, he traveled with his own backdrop, a maroon backdrop on a stand, his own gas lights, a little desk that he had made for himself that he would lean on and put his foot on, and then a condensed version of A Christmas Carol, which apparently he almost never looked at because he knew it by heart, but it was there in case he wanted him. A little carafe of water. We think it was water. And then he would go on for about an hour and a half. It was a condensed version, because if you tried reading A Christmas Carol, you couldn't finish it in an hour and a half. But he did that, then took a break, and then came back and did something else like a selection from Pickwick Papers or something like that.
If people are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Susan Wilson, the official house historian of the Omni Parker House in Boston. We're talking about the Omni Parker House because that's where Charles Dickens stayed when he was this major celebrity here in the 19th century, traveling with his works, including A Christmas Carol. So going back to the celebrity, and again, what Taylor Swift and other modern-day celebrities of epic magnitude experience, it was very difficult for him to even go out.
Oh, yes. They had guards at his door, okay, because people wanted to see him, wanted to grab a little bit of Dickens. He was known for wearing this. He was here, he arrived November 19th, and the last time he was in Boston was April 8th, 1868. So even though he took trips out of town, he was here a lot, and it was a really cold, wet winter. And he wore this coat that had the fur on the outside, and people would come and grab at him and try to get a little piece of Dickens. So they had guards outside his door, and it was a problem because he loved to walk. And even though he wasn't always well, he actually had flu-like symptoms, had a little problem with his feet, had insomnia, just a few things like that. But he liked to go out for walks each day for 8 to 10 miles.
Wow.
And so guarding him and making sure that he was safe and brought back and ready to do, to practice and to eat and to rest before he went out on it, and before he, took a trip out to Buffalo or Washington or Portland, and he went to a variety of places. So I read that he did 400 performances while he was here. That doesn't seem possible, but I'll have to check that.
Well, and before we move off this quickly, how is that celebrity manufactured? We know today it's through film, which is immediate. You can access it immediate. Of course, social media things become a phenomenon within hours. How did that crisscross the Atlantic?
Well, partly because of his agent and the people he worked with, but in the United States, his pal James Fields, who was, grew up in the Old Corner Bookstore building, which is still there on the corner of School in Washington, although the sign outside says Chipotle.
Yes.
Actually, right now it's wrapped because there's all kinds of renovations being done, but that is the building where the Old Corner Bookstore was, even though they later moved. But anyway, he did amazing PR for him. I mean, he not only produced the diamond edition of the book, but Jamie Fields was known for writing fabulous reviews in newspapers in advance before his writers got to that town, and writing under assumed names to pretend it was some other reviewer. And so there was plenty of PR. And then the word of mouth. I mean, when he came here, newspapers from New York came up to see him that very first night, December 2nd, 1867, and then wrote about it in the New York Times. And so it spread and spread. People adored him by then. He was probably the most popular speaking novelist in the world at that time.
As if this story isn't wild enough, Charles Dickens is also partly responsible for Christmas returning to Boston.
It is.
Which
yes,
I think a lot of people, including myself, did not realize that it wasn't a thing here for a very long time.
Okay. There was a movie that came out in 2017 with Dan Stevens, late of Downton Abbey.
Of course, Downton. Yeah.
Yeah. Called The Man Who Invented Christmas. Okay. Dickens did not invent Christmas. However, there is a point to this. The short form is Boston was founded in 1630. It was settled by Puritans. Puritans were people who wanted to purify the Church of England, okay? Too frivolous, too much falderall. Things were banned in Puritan Boston, okay? Among the things that were illegal, well, of course, adultery and witchcraft, okay, those are simple. But things like living with Indians, going to or performing in the theater, listening to or performing music, So no music in the Puritan churches and stuff. And among the things that got banned was Christmas. And it was officially frowned on largely because the Christmas of that era here and back in the old world, back in England, was very, there was a lot of drunkenness, a lot of street disarray, people banging on doors and saying, "Give me some figgy pudding." I won't go until I get some. And so it was a rather rowdy thing. The Puritans also said, well, for heaven's sakes, there's no evidence that he was born on December 25th anyway, and it's just a lot of fol-de-rol, so let's get back to purity. So in 1659, the General Court of Massachusetts made it officially illegal. That only lasted for a couple of decades, or slightly less than that, but it was just frowned on. Now, by the 1800s, almost 200 years later, it began to seep back. Part of it was religious revival in the United States in general, but also in New England. Part of it was all the immigrants that came in and who set up Catholic churches, Episcopalian churches, and churches that had music and fun and seats that were really comfortable and stained glass and wonderful stuff and had bells ringing. And so the old Puritan ethic was kind of dying away. I think it was in 1856 that the very first Christmas tree was in the White House, but Christmas didn't become an official national holiday in the U.S. until 1870. So he became part of this, part of making basically a kinder, gentler Christmas. No longer drunkenness, no longer people banging on your door and having rowdy fights in the street and all this revelry type of stuff. So the ideas that came out in the Christmas Carol, like charity, giving, family, merriment, that you can redeem your life in one night. Who doesn't want that? And so that was one of the things people adored about A Christmas Carol. He built on other authors. He often claimed that writings by Washington Irving, as well as Clement Moore, who wrote the poem that we know as The Night Before Christmas, that was back in 1819 and 1823, respectively. He built on those in the literary sense, but a lot of people think this really capped that off. And among the other things that happened was that we and many people here and in Britain used happy and merry interchangeably, but he used merry so many times in A Christmas Carol that people claim that became the reason why merry became predominant here. He wasn't the first person to say it, but he really consolidated that. Whereas back in England, they still often say Happy Christmas.
They do. Well, he should have trademarked it. The Dickens descendants would be even wealthier today.
There's a thought.
Susie Wilson, this has been an extraordinary lesson from you. Thank you so much for being here. You're a treasure.
You bet. Thanks a lot, Jared.
Susan Wilson is the official house historian of the Omni Parker House in Boston. If you want the full Dickens experience this holiday, Crescendo Productions presents A Christmas Carol at the Omni Parker House, December 19th through the 21st. You can find more details at crescendoproductions.com. And of course, as you mentioned, people can walk in and see some of those other Dickens elements.
Absolutely.
Very publicly accessible.
Absolutely.
At the Parker House. Well, thank you again.
You bet.
Coming up, fresh off a major Nashville award, singer-songwriter Eliza Smith joins us to talk truth-telling, the big break Garth Brooks gave her, and why the smallest moments make the biggest country songs. She's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Iraq has been dealing with severe drought for 7 years now. 2025 is on track to be the country's driest year in nearly a century. If you guessed that climate change is to blame, you'd be partially right. Scientists say there is much more to it than that, though. I'm Carolyn Beeler. Hear that story and more next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And American Repertory Theater with Wonder, a new musical for the whole family based on the best-selling book and beloved movie. This holiday season, Wonder celebrates the power of kindness. amrep.org.
Support for GBH comes from you and from Cambridge School of Culinary Arts.
Through our sponsorship, we're able to participate in such events as the GBH Food and Wine Festival.
Sean Leonard, Executive Director.
the great event that puts Cambridge Culinary in front of the listeners and is really great affirmation that we're hitting the right notes and reaching our community through GBH.
To learn more, visit gbh.org/sponsorship.
Find that Friday feeling early at GBH Music's Jazz Night, featuring pianist, composer, and poet David Leach, Thursday at 5:30 at the Boston Public Library. Get a free ticket at wgbh.org/events.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, and this is Eliza Smith.
My mama pulled me in, told me there'd be days like this. Come rest your head upon my shoulder.
That's Spirit on the Run. It's the title track of her 2024 album, which includes the song Nashville Don't Forget Me, that earned Eliza Smith a 2025 Josie Music Award for Female Song of the Year, an honor she recently received at the Grand Ole Opry, making it very hard for the country music capital to forget her. She joins us to perform her award-winning song live on 89.7, streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Eliza Smith is an Americana country artist based in Boston. Her forthcoming album titled Perfume is set for release in the spring, with a portion of the proceeds going to Rosie's Place. Eliza Smith, welcome to The Culture Show. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Well, this must have been so extraordinary for you. What was it to win this award, being a Bostonian, winning this award on that stage of all stages?
It was wild. So I remember, I wasn't expecting to win because I was just nominated with so many incredible artists and folks. And so my husband was sitting right next to me, and I remember him like cheering in my face, being like, they called your name, you have to go. And so I was walking down the stairs to get up onto the stage, because you had to walk down and then up to get on stage. And I was like, okay, legs, one step at a time. Like I could feel the adrenaline just like rushing through my entire body. It was wild. And I think the Opry is such an important place and institution for so many people, but for my family specifically, it carries a lot of emotional significance, because my grandmother, who I have another song that I wrote about, toward the end of her life, she struggled with dementia. And really the only thing that she could remember was going down to Nashville as a young woman and going to the Opry and seeing all these incredible artists that she loved so much. And so, she was hugely formative in my life and in my musical journey. And being on that stage and being in that circle of wood where she saw her favorite artist play was just very overwhelming, to say the least.
You must have felt her with you.
I did, and in the song that I wrote about her, it's the main line of it is, I feel your hand on my shoulder every time I step in those lights. And I did. I felt her hand on my shoulder.
Well, tell me about this. You're going to perform. You have guitar in hand.
I do.
Which we'll get to that guitar. Is that the guitar?
It is the guitar.
The guitar.
Yes.
All right. People remember this. We're going to go back to this. But first, you're going to perform. But tell me a little bit about Nashville Don't Forget Me before you perform.
Yeah, sure. So I wrote this song many, many years ago, actually. And I wrote it right after I recorded my first EP called Hitch a Ride. And so at the time, I was traveling back and forth a lot between here and Nashville, which I still do. And, I love Nashville. Nashville is such a wonderful, special place. But it's not my home. My home is here in New England, and for many reasons. And so Nashville, I think, will always kind of be my home away from home. And so after I recorded my first EP and I had spent a significant amount of time there, I remember sitting in my kitchen in our first house, and the sun was kind of streaming in, and I decided I want to sit down and write my love song to Nashville. And so that's what this is.
All right. Well, this is Eliza Smith performing Nashville Don't Forget Me, which just won her the 2025 Josie Music Award for Female Song of the Year.
Oh, I wish I was in Nashville with the sun on my face, in my dirty old boots, singing my heartache away. Well, I'm homesick homesick for you, honey. 'Cause I can't ever stay, and it'll be a long time till I'm headed that way. Oh, I'm homesick for that country style, and I'm homesick for that Broadway mile. Oh, I'm homesick for you, honey. Oh, Nashville, don't forget me. I got that devil on my back, and he won't let me alone. Yeah, these feet were made for leaving, but my nerve ain't strong, so I can't love you like I want to, 'cause I'm too far gone, and it'll be a long time till I'm headed back home. Oh, I'm homesick for that country style, and I'm homesick for that Broadway mile. Oh, I'm homesick for you, honey. Oh, Nashville, don't forget me. Oh, I'm homesick for that swagger and twang, and I'm homesick for that whiskey and grain. Oh, I'm homesick for you, honey. Oh, Nashville, don't forget me. Oh, Nashville, don't forget me.
Liza Smith, gorgeous song, fabulous song. Again, Nashville, Don't Forget Me, which just won you the 2025 Josie Music Award for Female Song of the Year. Congratulations again. So let's go to the sound we just heard from that guitar,
Yeah.
which wasn't always your guitar.
It was not always. It's mine now, though.
That's hilarious. Well, whose was it, and how did this become your launching point into country music in so many respects?
Yeah, so I was a student at Harvard, and when I was there, Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood came to give a talk about, their life in the industry and what it was like. And I was there for my master's degree. I also graduated from Berkeley, so music has been in my blood for, a long time. And so when Garth was there during his talk that he was giving, he was talking about how he gets really bad stage fright, which kind of floored me because at the time I was writing a ton and I had loved to perform, but I also got really bad stage fright, so much so that there was no way that I would be able to do what I just did. I would shake and I would tremble, and I couldn't bring myself to even get up on stage because I was so terrified of making a mistake, I think. And so when he said that, it just really resonated with me. And so after he was done giving his talk, there was kind of a Q&A portion. And so I raised my hand and I asked him, I was like, how do you get over your stage fright to play in front of 70,000 people multiple times every week? And he asked me my name and I told him, and he asked me, what I play. And I was like, I play guitar and I sing. And he's like, what kind of music do you play? And I was like, I play country music. And he got this, I'll never forget, he got this little smirk on his face. And he goes, well, this is what we call being baptized by fire. Get on up here and play us a song. And my
stomach is clenching right
yeah,
now.
I know. I was like, and I hadn't performed in 5 or 6 years at that point. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess if Garth Brooks asks you to play a song on stage, you have to do it. So I got up and he gave me this guitar to play and I played my song, and it was, horrible, but I got through it. I did it, and I did make a mistake and I just kept going, and I didn't freak out. And so after I was done, I'm shaking just telling this story. Yeah. After I was done, he gave me a huge hug and he was like, that was amazing. Just go for it. Just really sing your heart out. And so he hung out for about an hour and a half, signing autographs and just talking to people. He's probably one of the most genuinely kind people I've ever met. And so after everybody kind of cleared out, I went up to him and I was like, I don't need an autograph or anything. I just wanted to say thank you because I think you have really changed the trajectory of my life, and you have fixed something that was broken in me that needed to be fixed so that I could do what I am supposed to do on this earth. And so he goes, well, I have something for you. So he pulled like a little guitar pick out from his pocket and he's like, this is for you. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's so sweet. Like, I don't know, turn it into a necklace or something. Great. And then he's like, well, you need something to play it with. And I was like, what? And so he took this guitar out from behind him. And he's like, this is the guitar I've been touring with and playing with. And it's yours. And I need you to have it. And I want you to have it. And I was like, I can't take this. And Trisha looks me in the face and she's like, well, you have to. You don't have a choice. I was like, okay, well, Trisha Yearwood tells me to do something. I have to do it. So, so I took it and it's been the guitar that I've toured with, that I've played with, that I've written every song on since. And when I won the JMA a few weeks ago, I sent him an email and I just, we've kept in touch over the years. And his drummer was one of the co-producers on my first full-length album, Baptized by Fire, which I named because, and so he, we've kept in touch and he is, of course, very proud. And so
what do you think was unlocked in you? And I love that there is this combination of the songwriting and now the performance, which you can do.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I don't know. It was, without sounding too like woo-woo, like there was just a very like magical moment where I don't know if it's like somebody who is like an authority is like, you can do this. And if that's what it takes, it shouldn't be that, right? Like as artists, not every artist is going to get the same opportunity that I had, right? So I don't want to believe that it is required for like some person who is successful to like, give you the push that you need. But I don't know, like there was just this kind of affirmation. And I think, going back to just the person of who Garth Brooks is, like when we were in that room, even though that room was filled with 500 other people, he's so great at making a room feel so small. And I think that is what has really contributed to his success is you can be in a 70,000 person stadium and feel like you're in a group of 50. And so I think that there's just something really comforting about his words that gave me the courage to be able to do what I did that day.
Well, I'll tell you, there have been many people who've sat in your seat and said exactly what you said. I don't want to sound woo-woo, but when it comes to the arts, there is something about it. Well, I promise we will have you back. We had a sort of truncated conversation today. We'll have you back for your new album in the spring. I look forward to that.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Eliza Smith is an Americana country artist based in Boston. Her forthcoming album titled Perfume is set for release in the spring, with a portion of the proceeds going to Rosie's Place. Her song Nashville Don't Forget Me won her the 2025 Josie Music Award for Female Song of the Year. Join us tomorrow. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Spend your afternoon with us. Stay with us for GBH's All Things Considered at 4 and Marketplace at 6:30. But first, The World, a global view of today's headlines from the World Newsroom, right here on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Standish Village in Dorchester's Lower Mills, providing assisted living residents with programs designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. Learn more at standishvillage.com/programs. Amid Trump's immigration crackdown, Frontline tells the story of one Venezuelan family in Florida trying to stay together and keep their legal status. Watch Status, Venezuelan, tonight at 10 on GBH2.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, time is running out for Congress to extend tax credits under the Affordable Care Act. Governor Healy is urging action. Data centers are a growing part of the Massachusetts economy. We'll look at the environmental cost. And this weekend, Northeastern plays the final game ever at historic Matthews Arena. That and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at